Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Prometheans. I'm Izaran,
And I'm Radio Brain.
and ready, set, go. As someone kindly pointed out in the Discord chat earlier, let's get ready to mumble.
Fire up your interruptions,
Yep.
but don't do it too much because I will mute you.
See,
But only if you
here's
Donald
the
Trump.
problem, buddy. I'm the one with the control over OBS.
Uh,
I'm trying to find if anyone's got any fun little bingo games or anything like that to play. I'm ready. I am ready and raring to go with debate bingo because I enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. So, I figured we could start things off by talking about the Hunter Biden email mess and the laptop, right? I wanted to talk
yeah.
about that earlier this week, but we weren't able to. Life and health and all that fun stuff. So,
So how far do you reckon it's going to get through the debate before Trump just pulls out a crack pipe and gives it to Joe?
I don't know, but it would be pretty fucking great if he did. And on that,
Yeah.
actually, I'm making a prediction right now. The moment because okay, for anyone who's not aware, because I looked into this one, how the mute button shit's gonna work is it's not gonna be the foaming at the mouth moderator who has the mute button. It's the Committee on Presidential Debates staff and stuff behind the scenes that will have the mute buttons. And the way that it's supposed to work is both candidates will have, during their introductory 2 minute, their opponent will be muted. So when Biden gives his introduction, Trump will be muted, and when Trump gives his, Biden will be muted. We'll see if that actually happens. Other than that, the CPD people are going to handle the all of that in the back end. My prediction right here, right now, is as soon as Trump brings up the laptop, he's going to be muted. I'm calling it right here.
Assuming they don't just keep him muted the whole time anyway.
Oh yeah, I'm expecting he will be muted even when it's his allotted time. I have a feeling it
Yeah.
will happen.
I'm hoping to see him miming just to mess with their heads, just pretend he's talking without saying making any noise.
Oh, it'd be funny. That's for sure.
Just and then get that clipped and out there. Hey, they muted me the whole damn time.
Yeah, well, we'll see. And I'm thinking it's going to be No, that I actually think that would be great taking Biden's mic. Oh, that'd be funny. But of course, you know what'll happen then is they'll be screaming, "Oh my God, he's trying to kill Biden with the coof!"
Oh, we could always get some BLM supporters from a Sanders
Oh yeah, I mean
rally, and
they'll do
they
it.
could
They'll
do
do
it.
it for Trump. They'll do it for Trump. Easy. Oh, damn! I'm trying to find a good bingo card, but there we go. But it's all
Yeah.
that's the vice presidential bingo. They're all
Do you reckon the fly will appear again? I hear
hmm.
it's I think I said saw it saying it
Provided
would turn up on its Twitter account.
provided he didn't get provided the fly didn't get Arkancided, sure. Though I can't see why not. I mean, the fly did make them look pretty good. Well, that's just insulting. I found a great bingo card from the New York Post, which I thought would be great to use because they're topical since they're the ones who got censored by Twitter. And it's on damn it, it's Scribd, and I don't want to sign up for Scribd. Yeah, fuck it, I'll sign in with Google.
Oh, another sign up.
Yeah, it's kind of absurd. I'll share the link for anyone. Actually, no. What I will do is I will re-upload this bloody thing to something like our Google Drive because we have a Google Drive, just haven't set it up yet, and share it with everyone here. So, but so yeah, the what was it? So the son of a bitch. Oh yeah, the laptop. So we didn't go over it too much when we were just chatting about what we are going to do today yesterday. Have you looked much into what's gone on with the laptop business? Because I covered a little bit, but didn't go too much into detail.
No, I've got the basic rundown that there's some more stuff coming out.
Oh yeah, it's an
But at
ongoing
this
story.
stage, yeah, there's a lot of people saying something's coming out. Like I just saw a tweet from some journalist saying they're about to release some pretty icky information. But other than that, I mean, Christ, how bad can it get after this? So far, all we know, or all I know, is Hunter's smoking crack and being a dirty pedo. Well, yeah.
Yeah. So that's actually the real big thing on it. So now I'm gonna play not devil's advocate, but well, yeah, I guess I'll play a little bit of devil's advocate here because there's some things here I haven't quite gotten a broad picture of yet. But basically, for anyone who's not aware it yet, so a few weeks ago, it had come out that a repair shop in I think Wilmington, Delaware, somewhere in Delaware, I think, had handed over either a laptop or a mirror of the drive to Rudy Giuliani and his team. And the guy had said that he had already gone to the FBI. They hadn't really done anything with it. And what it was is the laptop had been worked on. He'd worked on the laptop. It apparently had come from Hunter Biden or Hunter Biden's people. It had suffered quote liquid damage. No idea what that means. Probably water. Probably water or liquor or something. I don't know. I mean, and it was classified as abandoned property. It was never paid for. The repairs were never paid for. It was never picked up. Over 80 days had passed, which I think understand it in the state of Delaware is what's the time required for abandoned property. And as he started going through it, you know, the machine and stuff like that, he started to find emails and other things that linked to Hunter Biden. We don't know why he initially went to the FBI, but based off of what's happened this past few days, last week, um, Rudy Giuliani apparently has turned the laptop over to the FBI, and him and his people have said that they found evidence of CP, specifically pertaining to underage girls. Um, and
Apparently, it's a very specific underage girl too.
Yeah, that's part of what you'd said yesterday. I hadn't heard that yet, but if that allegation is true, that's bad. That's real bad.
Yeah, it's puts all that puts all of Joe's sniffing in a different perspective, doesn't it? Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not joking, man.
Oh
That
no,
really
you're
does.
not.
I
You're
mean,
not. Oh, I know you're not. Ugh. I'm laughing, but that's like one of those. Ugh. That's not fun. All right, guys, I
yeah,
got the bingo.
I've
Go
wondered
for it.
for a while if is Joe fully out there, creepy, you know, doing some pretty shady stuff, or is he just a kooky old man who's got this weird habit? I've wondered. I don't feel like I need to wonder anymore. Not to say I feel like I know what the truth is, but it certainly changes the way I see that now.
Yeah, it does. It changes a lot as well. That
Especially
ceases.
given that he knew, or that's what we've been, allegedly knew that his son was in a inappropriate relationship with an underage girl.
Yeah, and Hunter Biden, honestly, with the kind of crowd that people Biden himself has been around, the Clintons in particular, it wouldn't surprise me if maybe not Joe, but Hunter potentially having been a guest at a certain island. Yeah, I think that's easily a bit out there so far, but it wouldn't surprise me considering I think it was Robert Barnes who pointed it out that there's no question like Robert Barnes had pointed out that there's a reason like in that picture you have Hunter getting off the plane right behind Joe when they were going to China, because it was Joe's message to the Chinese, like, you want to get anything done, you deal with the kid first. So it's obvious that Hunter is used, at the very least, is used by his dad as an engine of influence and in diffusing obvious corruption. If you get what I mean.
Yeah.
So
was Joe or Hunter ever on the flight manifests for Epstein's?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
But well, the Lolita Express was not the only way people got to that island, though. So
yeah. Given the amount of footage and how many names are on all these lists related to Maxwell and Epstein,
yeah,
it's actually quite odd that he wouldn't be on there.
No, I agree. It would be a little unusual.
You got pretty much every A-list actor and nearly every, I don't know, not every, but quite a few world leaders.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and we don't even know the full extent of who all's been to that horrendously disgusting island. So, for obvious reasons, the man who really knew.
So very
totally killed himself, guys. Epstein didn't kill himself. There's your daily reminder. But
so how's QAnon handling all of this? That's a good question. How are they factoring it into their theories?
I have no idea. I honestly, I don't really know anything other than that. I know the general premise of what they are, but I don't pay them any attention, to be honest, because they're very tinfoily, and I'm sitting there going, do I think that?
I'm just wondering.
Do I think that there's the potential of pedo rings and shit like that? Oh hell yeah! Come on, that's what was that? Jimmy Savile shit in Britain, and that was part of a wider ring. Come on, this stuff's a thing. It's just, do I think that there's some grand conspiracy that Trump knows about, and he's the giant, he's the bulwark fighting against it as like a personal crusade? I mean, is it possible? Sure. Is it plausible? Wait, no, let me get that backwards. Is it plausible? Sure. Is it possible? I don't really think so. I think it's more that he's just, he himself shit deplorable like any sane human being should, and he's in the position of power to combat it. He's the president of the United States. So, alrighty. If anyone's curious, actually, no, I think I'll do everyone a big favor, since I packed the bingo cards up into paint files individually. Let me go ahead and pack these into a lovely little archive and throw those up on the drive, and you can use that instead of just doing what I had to sit here and do. There, people, I did the work for you. All right, so
I got to say though, it's pretty weird that all this the laptop business has popped up now.
Oh yeah, that's something else I want to say on that, actually. No, you're right. It is a little weird. What are you thinking?
I'm thinking, like, to be honest, I don't trust Giuliani on this entirely. I'm not saying he's lying or he's making all of this up by any means, because we can see the photos and you know, if he's got it and he's handed over the FBI, it's coming out. But it does just seem really weird. Like, you think of the timeline. Hunter drops it off, or whoever works for him, or whoever drops it off at a shop. The 80 days you mentioned earlier expires, and whoever runs the shop gives it to Giuliani. It's weird timing, and
and that's because I think it's just it's oppo. That's all. It's opposition. It's cynical politics there. No question to that. Because this whole thing with the laptop repair and the abandonment happened like much earlier in the year. So this isn't like 80 days passed and then the guy just hands it over to Giuliani. No, the 80 days passed. The guy hands information. I don't know if it was a mirror of the drive or the laptop itself. He hands it over to the FBI. They don't do anything with it. He hands it. We don't know when he handed it. At least I don't know when he handed it off to Giuliani. And I would imagine he handed it off to Giuliani a while ago, and Giuliani sat on it and kept it as the October surprise. That brings in a couple of important questions. First and foremost, that's plenty of time for people to fabricate the CP claim, CP evidence, unless there's things like, unless there's metadata and stuff that can be verified as having been timestamped before the laptop was dropped off at the repair.
Yeah, well, it's an email. I think it comes from an email, so that actually could be verifiable by going back servers it might as pass through.
By tracing back. The other thing that they bring into concern is if Giuliani and his people had in their possession evidence of CP for months, they've committed a major felony. So
yeah.
Now the argument could be made, and I don't know. Again, I don't.
Well, hang on. Back up with it. If it is purely just coming from the emails, I don't think that would count in this case.
It's kind of tricky because CP laws have a lot to do with possession.
I don't think they've got specific, like, I don't think they have child pornography, is what I'm saying. From what I've heard so far, they have. Well, actually, that's a grey area. But
see, that's the thing. That's the big thing. That's the That's the sources that have quote verified it so far have been like what I'd heard was a Republican Senate candidate in Delaware who says she had sources in the Delaware State Police. Those sources verified it, but she's a political actor. She provides no proof of her sources. It could just be pulling it out of her ass for all we know. Until I see actual some kind of verification from law enforcement directly, and if that's happened and I missed it, someone film me it. Sorry, I interrupted you there.
Yeah, the other thing that it puzzles me is I haven't actually seen anything specifying the timeline of when he handed it over to the FBI.
Yeah,
but I did see something yesterday. I wish I'd gone back to look into it properly, but there's an article saying there's actually been a probe into Hunter Biden going for about a year or more relating to something about funds going missing, and this is involved in it. So yeah, I think there's a lot here we're yet to find out about. Although I must say, like, if you're going to, just a word from the wise, if you are involved in a political dynasty of any sort and you want to get your laptop fixed, if you're a Democrat, just ask the guy who owns the shop, are you a Trump supporter first? That seems like a lesson that some people should take away from this.
There's more to it than that. There's more to it than that as well. It's just,
but that's the freaky thing to me. That's one really
the device.
Yeah, but that's a weird thing, like he drops it off somewhere, and one piece of information we're getting here is that the person at the shop gave it to Giuliani. That's that's a weird little link in the story. Like, it's very specific to go to Rudy.
It is. That certainly sounds definitely political, of course, but I don't think the politics of the shop owner are really the most important thing here. Or I don't think they're
No,
relevant
I'm
at
not. I'm
all.
not.
Yeah, I don't think they're relevant at all.
No, well, I'm not. I don't think it's like, well, under normal circumstances, which we're not currently dealing with. Yeah, it shouldn't matter, but it is. Yeah, it really strikes me that, I mean, what if they'd taken it in and it's like, if it was some, jilted Democrat voter who went, this is weird. Oh shit, I better give it back. I better give it back. Don't let this get in the wrong hands. It's like a little bottleneck in the whole story. And yeah, normally it shouldn't matter, but given the whole state of affairs now and this weird tribalism, yeah, that really stands out to me.
Yeah, and hey, for all we know, the guy could be a Democrat, but he thought what he saw was just beyond the pale for him. So, and even if there was no CP, which, according to the Washington Examiner,
Hang on. So did the person at the shop actually see anything?
We don't know. That's the point I was going to say. We don't know, because what I was going to say, according to the Washington Examiner, Robert Costello, Giuliani's lawyer, told reporters last week, quote, he quote, did not see, end quote, child pornography on the hardware. So I don't know. Now, there is something else that Robert Barnes had said on this, because I watched him and Viva Frey's weekly podcast back on Sunday, and they spent a good half hour talking about this. And that clip itself is up on Viva Frey's channel. Barnes said there is one thing that does stick out, and that is while the Biden campaign hasn't confirmed the laptop in any regard, the Biden people's lawyers have asked for it back. And he says,
I think that's a confession of.
He said, if you're going to deny something like that, don't ask for it back. He said, I've had clients where, they're investigators, the prosecution's like, well, here's their device, and he just simply says, nope, that's not my client's device. Couldn't possibly be. You deny. You never ask for it back. Jesus.
They were smoking crack when they did that.
probably using Hunter as their connection.
I can imagine the scene right now. Hunter's sitting with his lawyers, and they're right. Okay, we've sent off a denial. It's going out to all major news sites. It's out there. We've done our job. Right, now what do we do? Hey, let's light up a crack pipe. 5 minutes later, hey man, I reckon we should get the laptop back, dude.
Yeah, it's just absolute. Oh, we're starting soon. That's just.
Ooh.
God, how stupid do you have to be to ask for that fucking thing back?
All
right. Well, we're
how stupid do you have to be to drop off a fucking laptop with evidence of you doing drugs and being a creep? What? How?
Well,
what kind of person does that?
3 things. It's an Apple device, which I know from personal experience trying to do drive removal, drive swapping, and such inside of Apple laptops is the equivalency of. Well, it's the equivalency of. I'm trying to find something that's not too sick and twisted to say here that might get us yeeted off of YouTube. Okay, it's the equivalency of jumping into a pit full of venomous snakes. Slathered in mouse pheromones. Second, if it was suffered from liquid damage, obviously the device was inoperable, and was in an inoperable enough state where you couldn't just delete the crap before taking it in for repair. And 3, Hunter Biden doesn't strike me as the type of person who's tech savvy at all.
Yeah.
First of all,
Yeah.
he's using a Mac. Second,
Oh, you
take it into a
bastard.
repair shop. Second, he had to take it into a repair shop. So, I've had.
Well, you have to with Macs, actually. That's the other thing. You
That's
kind of
part
have
of why
to.
I was saying he's using a Mac.
Yeah.
You know, I can go and buy a Samsung laptop or an LG, or I could go ahead and buy any IBM PC based platform and do basically whatever the hell I want to the damn thing within reason. And it is, miniaturization has limits, but or my desktop here, I can tear the fucking thing apart and put whatever I want in it as long as it fits. Drive goes bad, okay, yank it, put a new one in. Hope I can recover what's off of it. So,
Yeah, I don't know. If I had something that outrageously controversial on my laptop, I might throw it out, especially if I just happen to have, if I have a couple of $1 million in my pocket from a Russian oligarch or something. I'm like, nah. Yeah, a couple of grand for a new laptop. Yeah, I might throw this one in the fucking bin.
I mean, I can at least applaud him for his frugality of not just chucking a potential toxic waste device and going and just buying a new one. But damn, dude, there does come a point where it's like, okay, frugality and environmentalism aside, I can't let this shit get out into the furnace.
Yep.
Hey Dad, where's that 12 gauge you keep telling people to shoot into the air? All right, we got 2 minutes out to go. I'm gonna disappear for just a second to fill up some iced tea, and I guess you can keep the audience entertained. Do a jig or something. I'll be right back.
Oh, here we go. Waiting. Oh, God. Oh, the pain I'm anticipating in watching a presidential debate in this current year. Yeah. I don't know. I honestly don't know what to say right now because I'm just thinking, what the effing hell is going to happen next? I'm going to check up on the bingo cards. See if there's any malarkey on there. Okay. Debate bingo. Card 1. Hang on a sec. That's from the VP one. Yeah. Come on, is it? What did you give me? Uh-oh, extracting a file. God, I'm kind of scared now. I think every time I extract some files, I'm scared I'm going to see a picture of Hunter Biden with a crack pipe in his mouth. And God knows what else. Oh, come on, hurry up. So where's... Starting soon.
And I'm back.
Final presidential debate.
Final shit show.
That could actually be the final. Like, if in coming years, in future elections, I kind of get the impression they might not do a debate ever again.
Well, that'll be a real shame.
Yeah, I mean, it's such an out of date. I don't know. It's like pandering to the normies.
It provides great entertainment. So, well, of course, provided you have a candidate who's entertaining, like Trump, and a candidate who any other year would be, holy shit, drag that corpse off the stage already. But in this case, entertaining. Oh crap, we are not live. Uh-oh.
Oh.
It's supposed to be live. Oh no, it is. What the hell's going on? Huh. Well, we're waiting now. Nothing's happened on the debate side. That's always a little annoying. Come on.
Yeah, well, they've been.
Well, yeah, they're always like a minute or two late on some of these things.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we don't have a half an hour of something about the university they're broadcasting out of.
Oh, please, for the love
something.
of God, no, not that again.
Yeah.
I know there was an. Oh, there is. Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure I have the controls accessible here.
I'm wondering what the big surprise might be. There's got to be something in it that's going to be off the script.
Oh, of course.
I'm kind of hoping it'll be Bernie Sanders with a steel chair. But
you've really been hoping for that one.
don't don't let your memes just be dreams, okay? Just. I swear to God, back in 2016, like I looking at the race coming up, I was like, holy shit. Back then I was like, oh my effing God, Donald Trump is about to be president. And if he's not, Hillary Clinton probably will be. But early on, I was hoping Sanders would win the nomination just for one thing I wanted to see. I wanted to see him and Trump do a debate where they're both up there going at each other, and they basically just look at each other and realize that they have one fundamental thing in common, which is basically they'll both change candidates. And
no, that's true.
Trump will be yelling at Sanders, calling him a filthy commie. Sanders will then explain his little spiel, which back then when he did it, he did sort of qualify his, the whole democratic socialism TM thing, but he'd probably do that, and then Trump would just go, "Hey, dude, what do you know about draining swamps? Got a job to do." And I reckon that by itself,
and I figured that
itself would have been a game changer.
Yeah, and I also think that Trump, as far as the draining swamp, something I've always thought about. The guy probably actually knows a little bit about what goes into draining swamps, considering. Okay, so this source is not fucking working. I'm changing sources. We're gonna go with Fox News. They shouldn't strike us.
Okay.
Maxine Waters is scared of losing a congressional seat for the first time in 29 years, and it's because of our campaign. My name is Joe Collins. I'm a Republican Navy veteran running for Congress against Maxine Waters, and I need your help to finally defeat her once and for all.
Damn it, what is
that? It will not let
Oh my God, is that Maxine Waters?
Yes, and it's the guy running against her, and he's going to kick her ass.
Can you contribute $29 right now? That's $1 for every year Maxine Waters has sat in Congress and done nothing.
Let me tell you, I don't care.
There, that should help with the audience. It's the Interact for OBS, won't let me change it. Oh, for the love of... How long does this bloody thing go? There we are.
After 15 months, U.S. Attorney John Durham, who was assigned by William Barr to investigate the FBI's probe into Trump's campaign in 2016, has filed the first criminal charge in his investigation. The man that he charged, who has now pled guilty, was the primary FBI lawyer who was assigned to provide legal support to the special counsel led by Bob Mueller. So what was his crime?
Yeah, what was on the other one?
He took an email from a CIA liaison and altered it during the application process for a secret spy warrant against the former Trump campaign advisor. Basically, here's what happened. When the special counsel first began, the CIA sent him a memo saying that Carter Page, who was a Trump campaign advisor, used to be an approved operational contact for the CIA, and that he reported back to the CIA.
Don't get me wrong, I like the Epoch Times, but Jesus, dude, I don't want the ads. There we go.
shared a stage.
Yep, we're back now.
16,000 Americans have died from COVID. So please be specific. How would you lead the country during this next stage of the coronavirus crisis? 2 minutes, uninterrupted.
So, as you know, 2.2 million people modeled out were expected to die. We closed up the greatest economy in the world in order to fight this horrible disease that came from China. It's a worldwide pandemic. It's all over the world. You see the spikes in Europe and many other places right now. If you notice, the mortality rate is down 85%. The excess mortality rate is way down and much lower than almost any other country. And we're fighting it, and we're fighting it hard. There is a spike. There was a spike in Florida, and it's now gone. There was a very big spike in Texas. It's now gone. There was a very big spike in Arizona. It's now gone. And there are some spikes and surges.
Audio good, everyone?
Places. They will soon be gone. We have a vaccine that's coming. It's ready. It's going to be announced within weeks, and it's going to be delivered. We have Operation Warp Speed, which is the military is going to distribute the vaccine. I can tell you from personal experience that I was in the hospital. I had it, and I got better. And I will tell you that I had something that they gave me, a therapeutic, I guess they would call it. Some people could say it was a cure. But I was in for a short period of time, and I got better very fast, or I wouldn't be here tonight. And now they say I'm immune. Whether it's 4 months or a lifetime, nobody's been able to say that, but I'm immune. More and more people are getting better. We have a problem that's a worldwide problem. This is a worldwide problem. But I've been congratulated by the heads of many countries on what we've been able to do. If you take a look at what we've done in terms of goggles and masks and gowns and everything else, and in particular ventilators. We're now making ventilators all over the world, thousands and thousands a month, distributing them all over the world. It will go away, and as I say, we're rounding the turn, we're rounding the corner. It's going away.
Okay, former Vice President Biden, to you, how would you lead the country out of this crisis? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
220,000 Americans dead. If you hear nothing else I say tonight, hear this. Anyone who's responsible for not taking control, in fact, not saying I take no responsibility initially. Anyone who's responsible for that many deaths.
Lying already.
As President of the United States of America. We're in a situation where there are 1,000 deaths a day now, 1,000 deaths a day. And there are over 70,000 new cases per day. Compared to what's going on in Europe, as the New England Medical Journal said, they're starting from a very low rate. We're starting from a very high rate. The expectation is we'll have another 200,000 Americans dead between now and the end of the year. If we just wore these masks, the president's own advisors have told him, we could save 100,000 lives. And we're in a circumstance where the president thus far and still has no plan, no comprehensive plan. What I would do is make sure we have everyone encouraged to wear a mask all the time. I would make sure we move in the direction of rapid testing, investing in rapid testing.
What happened to that nationwide mandate, huh?
Set up national
now it's just an
standards of how to
encouragement.
open up schools and open up businesses so they can be safe and give them the wherewithal, the financial resources to be able to do that. We're in a situation now where the New England Medical Journal, one of the most serious journals in the whole world, said for the first time ever that the way this president has responded to this crisis has been absolutely tragic. And so, folks, I will take care of this. I will end this. I will make sure we have a plan.
President Trump, I'd like to follow up with you in your comments. You talked about taking a therapeutic. I assume you're referencing Regeneron. You also said a vaccine will be coming within weeks.
Yes.
Is that a guarantee?
No, it's not a guarantee, but it will be by the end of the year. But I think it has a good chance. There are two companies, I think, within a matter of weeks, and it will be distributed very quickly.
Can you tell us which companies?
Johnson & Johnson is doing very well. Moderna is doing very well. Pfizer is doing very well. And we have numerous others. Then we also have others that we're working on very closely with other countries, in particular Europe.
Let me follow up with you, and because this is new information, you have said a vaccine is coming soon, within weeks now. Your own officials say it could take well into 2021 at the earliest for enough Americans to get vaccinated. And even then, they say the country will be wearing masks and distancing into 2022. Is your timeline realistic?
No, I think my timeline is going to be more accurate. I don't know that they're counting on the military the way I do, but we have our generals lined up, one in particular that's the head of logistics, and this is a very easy distribution for him. He's ready to go as soon as we have the vaccine, and we expect to have 100 million vials. As soon as we have the vaccine, he's ready to go.
Vice President Biden, your reaction, and just 40% of Americans say they would definitely agree to take a coronavirus vaccine if it was approved by the government. What steps would you take to give Americans confidence in a vaccine if it were approved?
Make sure it's totally transparent. Have the scientists of the world see it, know it, look at it, go through all the processes. And by the way, this is the same fellow who told you this is going to end by Easter.
We're already doing
last time. This is the same fellow who told you that, don't worry, we're going to end this by the summer. We're about to go into a dark winter, and he has no clear plan, and there's no prospect that there's going to be a vaccine available for the majority of American people before the middle of next year.
President Trump, your reaction, he says you have no plan.
I don't think we're going to have a dark winter at all. We're opening up our country. We've learned and studied and understand the disease, which we didn't at the beginning. When I closed and banned China from coming in heavily infected, and then ultimately Europe, but China was in January. Months later, he was saying I was xenophobic. I did it too soon. Now he's saying, oh, I should have, moved quicker. But he didn't move quicker. He was months behind me, many months behind me. And frankly, he ran the H1N1 swine flu, and it was a total disaster, far less lethal, but it was a total disaster. Had that had this kind of numbers, 700,000 people would be dead right now, but it was a far less lethal disease. Look, his own person who ran that for him, who, as you know, was his chief of staff, said it was catastrophic, it was horrible, we didn't know what we were doing. Now he comes up and he tells us how to do this. Also, everything that he said about the way every single move that he said we should make, that's what we've done. We've done all of it. But he was way behind us.
Vice President Biden, your response.
My response is he is xenophobic, but not because he shut down access from China. And he did it late after 40 countries had already done that. In addition to that, what he did, he made sure that we had 44 people that were in there in China trying to get to Wuhan to determine what exactly the source was. What did the president say in January? He said, no, he said, he's being transparent. The president of China is being transparent. We owe him a debt of gratitude. We have to thank him. And then what happened was we started talking about using the Defense Act to make sure we go out and get whatever is needed out there to protect people. And again, I go back to this. He had nothing. He did virtually nothing. And then he gets out of the hospital and he talks about, don't worry, it's all going to be over soon. Come on. There's not another serious scientist in the world who thinks it's going to be over soon.
President Trump, your reaction?
I say over soon. I say we're learning to live with it. We have no choice. We can't lock ourselves up in a basement like Joe does. He has the.
Did he just say lock him up?
No. He said we can't lock ourselves up in a basement like Joe does.
But he has this thing about living in a basement. People can't do that. By the way, I, as the president, couldn't do that. I'd love to put myself in the basement or in a beautiful room in the White House and go away for a year and a half until it disappears. I can't do that. And Kirsten, every meeting I had, and I'd meet a lot of families, including Gold Star families and military families. Every meeting I had, and I had to meet them. I had to. It would be horrible to have canceled everything. I said, this is dangerous, and you catch it. And I caught it. I learned a lot. Great doctors, great hospitals, and now I recovered. 99.9% of young people recover. 99% of people recover. We have to recover. We can't close up our nation. We have to open our school, and we can't close up our nation, or you're not going to have a nation.
And of course, the CDC has said young people can get sick with COVID-19 and can pass it. Vice President Biden, I want to talk broadly about strategy, though.
Can I respond to that?
30 seconds, please, and then I have a question.
Number one, he says that we're learning to live with it. People are learning to die with it. You folks home will have an empty chair at the kitchen table this morning. That man or wife going to bed tonight and reaching over to try to touch their, out of habit,
also, this is the same
husband is gone.
This is coming from the same people who said,
come on. We're dying with it.
It's going to be the
because
new
he has
normal. We
never
have to
said-
learn to
he
live
said
with
it's
it.
dangerous. When's the last time? Is it
Funny how
really
that
dangerous still?
funny how
We're
that fucking
dangerous. You tell the
tune
people it's
shifted when it's
dangerous
convenient,
now.
huh?
What should they do about the danger?
Yeah.
And you say, I take no responsibility.
Let me talk about your two.
So you've got to believe the scientists, even though they've changed their fucking minds.
It's China's fault. And you know what? It's not Joe's fault that it came here either. It's China's fault. They kept it from going into the rest of China for the most part, but they didn't keep it from coming out to the world, including Europe and ourselves.
Vice President Biden.
The fact is that when we knew it was coming, when it hit, what happened? What did the president say? He said, don't worry, it's going to go away. Be gone by Easter. Don't worry, the warm weather. Don't worry, maybe inject bleach. He said he was kidding when he said that, but a lot of people thought it was serious.
Nobody thought it was fucking serious.
Even today, he thinks we are in control. We're about to lose 200,000 more people.
President Trump.
Look, perhaps just to finish this, I was kidding on that, but just to finish this, when I closed, he said I shouldn't have closed. And that went on for months. Nancy Pelosi said the same thing. She was dancing on the streets in Chinatown in San Francisco. But when I closed, he said, this is a terrible thing, you're xenophobic. I think he called me racist even, and because I was closing it to China. Now he says I should have closed it earlier. It just, Joe, it doesn't work.
I didn't say either of those things.
You certainly did. You certainly
did. I talked about a xenophobia in a different context. It wasn't about closing the border to Chinese coming to the United States.
All right, I want to talk about both of your different strategies to handle
He thought I shouldn't have closed the border.
Well,
that's obvious.
Do you want to respond to that quickly, Vice President
No.
Biden? Okay. Let's talk about your different strategies toward dealing with this. Mr. Vice President, you suggested you would support new shutdowns if scientists recommended it. What do you say to Americans who are fearful that the cost of shutdowns, the impact on the economy, the higher rates of hunger, depression, domestic and substance abuse outweighs the risk of exposure to the virus?
What I would say is I'm going to shut down the virus, not the country. It's his ineptitude
Oh my
that
God,
caused
that's-
the virus.
we're gonna cure cancer all over again.
Shut down in large part. Why businesses have gone under, why schools are closed, why so many people have lost their living, and why they're concerned. Those other concerns are real. That's why he should.
Oh, yeah, and how do you fucking do that when they won't come to the table?
With Nancy Pelosi and the rest of the Democrats and Republicans about what to do about the acts they were passing for billions of dollars to make sure people had the capacity.
But you haven't ruled out more shutdowns.
Well, no, I'm not shutting down the name, but there are, look, you need standards. The standard is if you have a reproduction rate in a community that's above a certain level, everybody says, slow up, more social distancing, do not open bars and do not open gymnasiums, do not open until you get this under control, under more control. But when you do open, give the people the capacity to be able to open and have the capacity to do it safely. For example, schools. Schools, they need a lot of money to open. They need to deal with ventilation systems. They need to deal with smaller classes.
I'm sorry.
Pods.
Which side won't
he
sign off on the
supports that
stimulus
money,
package?
Or at least up to
I
now.
know, right?
Let's talk about schools. President Trump,
I think we have to respond, if I might.
please, and then I have a follow-up.
Thank you, and I appreciate that. Look, all he does is talk about shutdowns, but forget about him. His Democrat governors, Cuomo in New York, you look at what's going on in California, you look at Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Democrats all, they're shut down so tight, and they're dying. They're dying. And he supports all these people. All he talks about is shutdowns. No, we're not going to shut down, and we have to open our schools. And it's like, as an example, I have a young son. He also tested positive. By the time I spoke to the doctor the second time, he was fine. It just went away. Young people, I guess it's their immune system.
Let me follow up with you, President Trump. You've demanded schools open in person and insist they can do it safely. But just yesterday, Boston became the latest city to move its public school system entirely online after a coronavirus spike. What is your message to parents who worry that sending their children to school will endanger not only their kids, but also their teachers and families?
I want
them
to
in
open
private schools.
The transmittal rate to the teachers is very small, but I want to open the schools. We have to open our country. We're not going to have a country. You can't do this. We can't keep this country closed. This is a massive country with a massive economy. People are losing their jobs. They're committing suicide. There's depression, alcohol, drugs at a level that nobody's ever seen before. There's abuse, tremendous abuse. We have to open our country. You know, I've said it often. The cure cannot be worse than the problem itself. And that's what's happening. And he wants to close down. He'll close down the country if one person in our massive bureaucracy says we should close it down.
Vice President Biden, your response.
Simply not true. We ought to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. We ought to be able to safely open, but they need resources to open. You need to be able to, for example, if you're going to open a business, have social distancing within the business. You need to have, if you have a restaurant, you need to have plexiglass dividers so people cannot infect one another. You need to be in a position where you can take testing rapidly and know
This
whether
sounds
the
like
person
ADA
is
compliance
in
all
fact
over again, and
infected.
that's
You
a
need to be able to
conversation we can
trace.
have
You need to
another
be able
time,
to
but
provide
ADA is impossible
all
to be
the
compliant with.
resources that are needed to do this, and that is not inconsistent with saying that what we're going to make sure that we open safely. And by the way, all you teachers out there, not that many of you are going to die, so don't worry about it. Come on.
President Trump, let me follow up with you quickly.
By the way, I will say this. If you go and look at what's happened to New York, it's a ghost town. It's a ghost town. And when you talk about plexiglass, these are restaurants that are dying. These are businesses with no money. Putting up plexiglass is unbelievably expensive, and it's not the answer. I mean, you're going to sit there in a cubicle wrapped around with plastic. It's
Look at that
these are
concert with the
businesses
fucking
that are
everybody in
dying,
bubbles
Joe.
a few
You
days
can't do
ago.
that to
Jesus
people.
Christ.
You just can't. Take a look at New York and what's happened to my wonderful city for so many years. I loved it. It was vibrant. It's dying. Everyone's leaving
they're
New
not
York.
dying because there's no one there to die
Is done
anymore.
in terms of turning the curve down in terms of the number of people dying. And I don't look at this in terms of the way he does. Blue states and red states. They're all the United States. And look at the states that are having such a spike in the coronavirus. They're the red states. They're the states
I don't
in the
look at these
Midwest.
as blue
They're the
states and
in
red
the
states.
upper Midwest.
Bam,
That's
proceeds
where
to
the
do
spike
exactly
is
that.
occurring significantly. But they're all Americans. They're all Americans. And what we have to do is say, wear these masks, number one. Make sure we get the help that the businesses need that has money's already been
Feel free to share
passed
pictures
do
that you took of
It's
it
been out
on
there
our
since
Discord.
the beginning of the summer,
David Tuttle.
and nothing's happened.
I'll put the link in.
President, New York has lost more than 40,000 people, 11,000 people in nursing homes.
President Trump, what
when you
about-
say spike, take a look at what's happening in Pennsylvania, where they've had it closed. Take a look at what's happening with your friend in Michigan, where her husband's the only one allowed to do anything. It's been like a prison. Now it was just ruled unconstitutional. Take a look at North Carolina. They're
And
having
she's
spikes,
decided to
and
ignore
they've
the
been closed,
court.
and they're getting killed financially. We can't let that happen, Joe. You can't let that happen. We have to open up. And we understand the disease. We have to protect our seniors. We have to protect our elderly. We have to protect especially our seniors with heart problems and diabetes problems. And we will protect them. We have the best testing in the world by far. That's why we have so many cases.
Let me follow up
Because
with
it
you
shows.
before we move on to our next section. President Trump, this week you called Dr. Anthony Fauci, the nation's best-known infectious disease expert, quote, a disaster. You described him and other medical experts as, quote, idiots. If you're not listening to them, who are you listening to as you fight this?
I'm listening to all of them, including Anthony. I get along very well with Anthony. But he did say, don't wear masks. He did say, as you know, this is not going to be a problem. I think he's a Democrat, but that's okay. He said, this is not going to be a problem. We are not going to have a problem at all. When Joe says that, I said, Anthony Fauci said, and others, and many others, and I'm not knocking him a lot. Nobody knew. Look, nobody knew what this thing was. Nobody knew where it was coming from, what it was. We've learned a lot. But Anthony said, don't wear masks. Now he wants to wear masks. Anthony also said, if you look back, exact words, here's his exact words. This is no problem. This is going to go away soon. So he's allowed to make mistakes. He happens to be a good person.
Vice President Biden, your response quickly, and then we're going to move on to the next section.
My response is that think about what the president knew in January and didn't tell the American people. He was told this was a serious virus that spread in the air, and it was much worse than the flu. He went on record and said to one of your colleagues, recorded, that in fact he knew how dangerous it was, but he didn't want to tell us.
He did
He didn't
tell
want to
us.
He didn't want us to panic.
Oh, God, that
He didn't want
annoys
us-
me.
Americans don't panic. He panicked. But guess what? In the meantime, we find out in the New York Times the other day that, in fact, his folks went to Wall Street and said this is a really dangerous thing. And a memo out of that meeting, not from his administration, but from some of the brokers, said sell short because we got to get moving. It's a dangerous problem.
Well, this is
I'm going to give you 30 seconds to respond, and then we're
The
going
Wall
to
Street
move
one,
on.
I don't know. Somebody went to Wall Street. You're the one that takes all the money from Wall Street. I don't take it. You have raised a lot of money, tremendous amounts of money. And every time you raise money, deals
He is the Wall Street
I
candidate.
could raise so much more money. As president and as somebody that knows most of those people, I could call the heads of Wall Street, the heads of every company in America. I would blow away every record, but I don't want to do that because it puts me in a bad position. And then you bring up Wall Street. You shouldn't be bringing up Wall Street because you're the one that takes the money from Wall Street, not me. I could blow away your records that, like you wouldn't believe. We don't need money. We have plenty of money. In fact, we beat Hillary Clinton with a tiny fraction of the money that she was able to.
All right, gentlemen, we're going to move on.
Don't tell me about Wall Street.
Average contribution, $43.
All right, we're going to move on to our next section, which is national security. And I do want to start with the security of our elections and some breaking news from overnight. Just last night, top intelligence officials confirmed again that both Russia and Iran are working to influence this election. Both countries have obtained U.S. voter registration information, these officials say, and Iran sent intimidating messages to Florida voters. This question goes to you, Mr. Vice President. What would you do to put an end to this
I want
threat?
to see
You
them
have
spin
2
this,
minutes uninterrupted.
claiming that the president is
I made it
behind
clear,
Iran.
and I asked everyone else to take the pledge. I made it clear that any country, no matter who it is, that interferes in American elections will pay a price.
As long as they pay me more.
A price. It's been overwhelmingly clear this election. I won't even get into the last one. This election, that Russia has been involved, China has been involved to some degree, and now we learn that Iran is involved. They will pay a price if I'm elected. They're interfering with American sovereignty. That's what's going on right now. They're interfering with American sovereignty. And to the best of my knowledge, I don't think the president said anything to Putin about it. I don't think he's talking a lot. Folks. I don't think he said a word. I don't know why he hadn't said a word to Putin.
I don't know if he did.
And I don't know what he has recently said, if anything, to the Iranians. My guess is he'd probably be more outspoken with regard to the Iranians. But the point is this, folks. We are in a situation where we have foreign countries trying to interfere in the outcome of our election. His own national security advisor told him that what is happening with his buddy,
Joe, you're about to step in a dog turd.
Giuliani, he's being used as a Russian pawn. He's being fed information.
He brought it up. This is gold.
That is not true. And then what happens? Nothing happens. And then you find out that everything that's going on here about Russia is wanting to make sure that I do not get elected the next president of the United States because they know I know them and they know me.
Of course they know you and you know them. You're the one who profits off of them.
Take on Putin when he's actually paying bounties to kill American soldiers in Afghanistan, when he's engaged in activities that are trying to destabilize all of NATO. I don't know why he doesn't do it, but it's worth asking the question. Why isn't that being done? Any country that interferes with us will, in fact, pay a price because
I can see a technical issue with being
President Trump. Same question to you. Let me ask the question. You're going to have 2 minutes to respond for 2 elections in a row now.
Hang on. I reckon Trump's about to hit a home run.
What would you do in your next term to put an end to this? 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Well, let me respond to the first part as Joe answered. Joe got $3.5 million from Russia, and it came through Putin because he was very friendly with the former mayor of Moscow, who was the mayor of Moscow's wife, and you got $3.5 million. Your family got $3.5 million, and you know, someday you're going to have to explain why did you get 3.5. I never got any money from Russia. I don't get money from Russia. Now, about your thing last night, I knew all about that, and through John Ratcliffe, who is fantastic, DNI, he said the one thing that's common to both of them, they both want you to lose because there has been nobody tougher to Russia. Between the sanctions, nobody tougher than me on Russia. Between the sanctions, between all of what I've done with NATO, you know, I've got the NATO countries to put up an extra $130 billion, going to $420 billion a year. That's to guard against Russia. I sold, while he was selling pillows and sheets, I sold tank busters to Ukraine. There has been nobody tougher on Russia than Donald Trump. And I'll tell you, they were so bad. They took over the submarine port. You remember that very well. During your term, during you and Barack Obama, they took over a big part of what should have been Ukraine. You handed it to them, but you were getting a lot of money from Russia. They were paying you a lot of money, and they probably still are. But now, with what came out today, it's even worse. All of the emails, the horrible emails of the kind of money that you were raking in, you and your family, And Joe, you were vice president when some of this was happening, and it should have never happened. And I think you owe an explanation to the American people. Why is it? Somebody just had a news conference a little while ago who was essentially supposed to work with you and your family, but what he said was damning. And regardless of me, I think you have to clean it up and talk to the American people. Maybe you can do it right now.
Vice President Biden, you may respond. 30 seconds.
Here.
And then I do want to follow up on the election security.
I have not taken a penny from any foreign source ever
Liar.
in my life. We learned
Absolute fucking
this
liar.
president paid
Maybe not
50
himself
times
in his
tax
home,
in China,
but
has a
it
secret
happened.
bank account with China, does business in China, and in fact is talking about me taking money. I have not taken a single penny from any country whatsoever, ever. Number one. Number two, this is a president. I have released all of my tax returns. 22 years. Go
he's
look
trying
at
to
them.
turn it around.
22 years of my tax return. You have not released a single solitary year of your tax return. What are you hiding? Why are you unwilling? The foreign countries are paying you a lot. Russia's paying you a lot. China's paying you a lot. And your hotels and all your businesses all around the country, all around the world. And China's building a new road to a new a golf course you have overseas. So what's going on
It's almost
here?
like he's an international real estate mogul or something,
President
right?
Trump, your response.
First of all, I called my accountants under audit. I'm going to release them as soon as we can. I want to do it, and it'll show how successful, how great this company is. But much more importantly than that, people were saying $750. I asked them a week ago, I said, what did I pay? They said, sir, you prepaid tens of millions of dollars. I prepaid my tax. Tens over the last number of years. Tens of millions of dollars I prepaid because at some point they think it's an estimate. They think I may have to pay tax. So I already prepaid it. Nobody told me that.
Did your accountant
Nobody
tell you
told
when
you
you
that.
could release
Excuse
them?
me. And it wasn't written whenever they write this. They keep talking about $750, which I think is a filing fee. But let me just tell you, I prepaid millions and millions of dollars in taxes. Number one. Number two, I don't make money from China. You do. I don't make money from Ukraine. You do. I don't make money from Russia. You made $3.5 million, Joe, and your son gave you. They even have a statement that we have to give 10% to the big man. You're the big man, I think. I don't know. Maybe you're not, but you're the big man, I think. Your son said we have to give 10% to the big man. Joe, what's that all about? It's terrible.
All right, gentlemen, I want to ask you both some questions about all of this, but I'm going to let you both respond very quickly. You just said you spoke to your accountant about potentially releasing your taxes. Did he tell you when you can release them? Do you have a deadline for when you're going to release them to the American people?
I get treated worse than the Tea Party got treated. Because I have a lot of people in there, deep down in the IRS, they treat me horribly. We made a deal, it was all settled until I decide to run for president. I get treated very badly by the IRS, very unfairly. But we had a deal all done. As soon as we're completed with the deal, I want to release it. But I have paid millions and millions of dollars, and it's worse than paying. I paid in advance. It's called prepaying your taxes. I paid in advance.
I want to ask you both about questions regarding your potential foreign entanglements and questions that have been raised to give you both a chance to talk about this more broadly. Respond very quickly, and then I'll get to my question.
Why did he's been saying this for 4 years? Show us. Just show us. Stop playing around. You've been saying for 4 years you're going to release your taxes. Nobody knows it, Mr. President. What they do know is you're not paying your taxes, or you're paying taxes that are so low. When last time he said what he paid, he said, I only pay that little because I'm smart. I know how to game the system. Come on. Come on, folks.
So,
President Trump, and then I want to get to two questions to both of you on this.
I was put through a phony witch hunt for 3 years. It started before I even got elected. They spied on my campaign. No president should ever have to go through what I went through. Let me just say this. Mueller and 18 angry Democrats and FBI agents all over the place spent $48 million. They went through everything I had, including my tax returns, and they found absolutely no collusion and nothing wrong. $48 million. I guarantee you, if I spent $1 million on you, Joe, I could find plenty wrong. Because the kind of things that you've done and the kind of monies that your family has taken, I mean, your brother made money in Iraq. millions of dollars. Your other brother made a fortune, and it's all through you, Joe. And they say you get some of it, and you do live very well. You have houses all over the place. You live very well.
All right, gentlemen, let me just ask some questions about all of this broadly. Vice President Biden, there have been questions about the work your son has done in China and for a Ukrainian energy company when you were vice president.
Well,
was anything about those relationships inappropriate?
I was not expecting the moderator to bring it up.
Nothing was unethical. Here's what the deal. With regard to Ukraine, we had this whole question about whether or not, because he was on the board, I later learned of Burisma, a company, that somehow I had done something wrong. Yet every single solitary person, when he was going through his impeachment, testifying under oath who worked for him, said, I did my job impeccably. I carried out U.S. policy. Not one single solitary thing was out of line. Not a single thing, number one. Number two, the guy who got in trouble in Ukraine was this guy trying to bribe the Ukrainian government to say something negative about me, which they would not do and did not do because it
the guy
never,
can be a scumsucker and still
happened.
be investigating a scumsucker.
My son has not made money in terms of this thing about, what are you talking about, China. I have not had, the only guy made money from China is this guy. He's the only one. Nobody else has made money from China.
President Trump, let me ask my question to you.
But could I just one thing?
Very quickly.
His son didn't have a job for a long time, was sadly no longer in the military service. I won't get into that. And he didn't have a job. As soon as he became vice president, Burisma, not the best reputation in the world. I hear they paid him $183,000 a month. Listen to this. $183, and they gave him a $3 million upfront payment.
All right.
And he had no energy.
I'm going to let the vice president respond to that quickly, and then I need to get
dishonest.
to a question to you. Very
No
quickly,
basis for that. Everybody investigated that. No one said anything he did was wrong in Ukraine.
Okay, President Trump, this is for you. Since you took office, you've never divested from your business. You've personally promoted your properties abroad. A report this week, which was referenced, does indicate that your company has a bank account in China. So how can voters know that you don't have any foreign conflicts of interest?
I have many bank accounts, and they're all listed, and they're all over the place. I mean, I was a businessman doing business. The bank account you're referring to, which is everybody knows about it, it's listed. The bank account was in 2013. That's when it was. It was opened it was closed in 2015, I believe. And then I decided, because I was thinking about doing a deal in China like millions of other people. I was thinking about it, and I decided I'm not going to do it. Didn't like it. I decided not to do it. Had an account open, and I
look on
closed
Joe's
it.
face, he's like, wow,
Excuse
you
me.
don't know how to
And
hide your
then,
money like
unlike
I do?
where he's vice president and he does business, I then decided to run for president after that. That was before. So I closed it
Expression
before
goes,
I even ran
wow, you're
for
not even
president,
using your kids to
let
hide your
alone
money?
became president. Big difference. He is the vice president of the United States, and his son,
It's
his
true.
brother,
Trump is a horrible
his other
businessman.
brother are getting rich. They're like a vacuum cleaner. They're sucking
Okay,
up money.
President
every
If you
Trump,
go by,
thank you.
if
We do
businessman
have to
is
move
the
on.
Washington
I do want to
businessman,
ask you,
yes.
Vice President Biden, about
Yeah.
China.
No wonder he
Let's talk
doesn't
about
pay any
China more
taxes.
broadly. There have, of course.
How can you make
President
money if
Trump
your
has
kids
said that
aren't
they should
raking it in
pay
for you?
Not being fully transparent in regards to the coronavirus. If you were president, would you make China pay? And please be specific. What would that look like?
What I'd make China do is play by the international rules, not like he has done. He has caused the deficit of China to go up, not down, with China, up, not down. We are making sure that in order to do business in China, you have to give all your intellectual property. You have to have a partner in China. It's 51%. We would not do that at all, number one.
What?
Number two, we're in a situation where China would have to play by the rules internationally as well. When I met with Xi, when I was still vice president, he said we're setting up air identification zones.
You know, when I
in the
hear
South China
make China
Sea.
play
You
by
can't fly
international
through
rules,
them.
I get a little
I said, we're gonna fly
suspicious
through them.
because
we just flew B-52,
it's Biden's camp
B-1
that
bombers
wants
through it. We're not going to pay
China
attention.
to join
they have
the
to
World
play
Trade
by the
Organization.
rules. And what's he do? He
There's a
embraces guys like the thugs like in North Korea and
Oh.
the Chinese president and Putin and others,
Bingo.
and he pokes his finger in the eye of all of our friends, all of our allies. We make up we're 25% of the world's economy. We need to be having the rest of our friends with us saying to China, these are the rules. You play by them or you're going to pay the price for not paying by them economically. That's the way I will run it, and that's what we did in upholding steel tariffs and a range of other things when we were president and vice president.
All right, let's talk about North Korea.
Excuse me, no, I have to respond to that.
Okay, very quickly, and then
His
we're
son
going to move
walked
on
out
to
with
North
$1.5
Korea.
billion from China to
Not
manage after
true.
spending 10 minutes in office and being in Air Force Two, number one. Number two, there's a very strong email talking about your family wanting to make $10 million a year for introductions.
President Trump, on China policy, though, what
No, but wait a
specifically are
minute.
you going to do? What specifically are you going to do to make China pay? You've said you're going
First
to
of
make
all,
them pay.
China is paying. They're paying billions and billions of dollars. I just gave
New
$28 billion.
sanctions? New sanctions?
I just gave $28 billion to our farmers. because
Taxpayers'
China,
money.
It's what?
Taxpayers' money. Didn't come from
You
China.
know who the taxpayer is? It's called China. China paid
true.
$28 billion, and you know what they did to pay it, Joe? They devalued their currency, and they also paid up. And you know who got the money? Our farmers, our great farmers, because they were targeted. You never charged them anything. Also, I charged them
he did.
25%
He charged
on
the money.
dumped steel because they were killing our steel industry. We were not
But
gonna
not
have a
on
steel
behalf of the
industry.
United States.
And now we have a steel
Okay,
industry.
Vice President Biden, your response, please.
Oh, he said malarkey.
This is about, there's a reason why he's
Hey.
bringing up all this malarkey. There's a reason for it. He doesn't want to talk about the substantive issues. It's not about his family and my family. It's about your family. And your family's hurting badly. If you're making less than, if you're a middle-class family, you're getting hurt badly right now. You're sitting at the kitchen table this morning deciding, well, we can't get new tires, they're bald because we have to wait another month or so. Or are we going to be able to pay the mortgage? Or who's going to tell her she can't go back to community college? They're the decisions you're making in the middle-class families like I grew up in Scranton and Claymont. They're in trouble.
He said Scranton.
We should
No,
be
he didn't
talking
fucking
about
grow up
your
in
families,
Scranton.
but
I'm
that's
sick
the
and tired
last
of
thing
hearing
he
him
wants to
claim
talk
that.
about.
I want
That is a
to talk
typical
about
statement.
North Korea.
Excuse me, just
I do
for
want
one
to turn
second,
to
please.
10 seconds, Mr. President.
That's
10
a
seconds.
typical political statement. Let's get off this China thing, and then he looks, the family, around the table.
Oh.
I'm a typical politician when I say that.
Let's talk
I'm
about
not
North
a typical
Korea now.
politician.
Okay,
That's why I
President
got elected.
Let's talk
let's
about-
get off the subject of China. Let's talk around, sitting around the table.
All right.
Come on, Joe, you can do better.
We're going to talk about North Korea now. President Trump, you've met with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un 3 times. You've talked about your beautiful letters with him. You've touted the fact that there hasn't been a war or a long-range missile test. And yet North Korea recently rolled out its biggest ever intercontinental ballistic missile and continues to develop its nuclear arsenal. Do you see that as a betrayal of the relationship you forged? Just 30 seconds here because we need to get on to the next one.
So when I met with Barack Obama, we sat in the White House right at the beginning, had a great conversation. It was supposed to be 15 minutes, and it was well over an hour. He said the biggest problem we have with North Korea. He indicated we will be in a war with North Korea. Guess what? It would be a nuclear war, and he does have plenty of nuclear capability. In the meantime, I have a very good relationship with him. Different kind of a guy, but he probably thinks the same thing about me. We have a different kind of a relationship. We have a very good relationship, and there's no war. And you know, about 2 months ago, he broke into a certain area. They said, oh, there's going to be trouble. I said, no, they're not, because he's not going to do that. And I was right. Look, instead of being in a war where millions of people, Seoul, you know, is 25 miles away, millions and millions, 32 million people in Seoul, millions of people would be dead right now.
President
we
Trump,
don't have
that's
a war,
30
and
seconds.
I have a good
Thank
relationship.
you. Vice President Biden, to you. North Korea conducted 4 nuclear tests under the Obama administration. Why do you think you would be able to rein in this persistent threat right
Because I'd make it clear, which we were making clear to China, they had to be part of the deal. Because here's I made it clear, and as a spokesperson of the administration when I went to China, that they said, why are you moving your missile defense up so close? Why are you moving more forces here? Why are you continuing to do military maneuvers with South Korea? I said, because North Korea is a problem, and we're going to continue to do it so we can control them. We're going to make sure we can control them and make sure they cannot hurt us. And so if you want to do something about it, step up and help. If not, it's going to continue. What has he done? He's legitimized North Korea. He's talked about his good buddy who's a thug, and he talks about how we're better off. And they have much more capable missiles, able to reach U.S. territory much more easily than ever did before.
Let me follow up with you,
No
Vice
war
President Biden.
sounds
You
pretty
said you
fucking
wouldn't
good to
meet
me.
with Kim Jong-un without preconditions. Are there any conditions under which you would meet with him?
On the condition that he would agree that he would be drawing down his nuclear capacity. to get the Korean Peninsula
Which is never
going to
happen.
free zone.
All right,
You
let's
can't.
move on to
You can't
American
try to meet with
families.
the North Koreans on that
They
ground.
tried to
Quickly,
meet with
10
him.
seconds,
They
President.
tried to meet with him. He wouldn't do it. He didn't like Obama. He didn't like him. He wouldn't do it.
Okay, I
know
gotta
for
give him a
fact they
chance to
tried.
respond to that
He
before we
wouldn't
move
do
on.
it.
You
And
know,
that's
I-
okay. You know what? North Korea, we're not in a war. We have a good relationship. You know, people don't understand. Having a good
President
relationship
Trump,
with
we have
leaders
to move
of other
on, 'cause
countries
we have
is
a lot
a
of
good thing.
We have a lot of questions to get
Yes,
to.
not
That's
Your
like
response.
saying we had a good relationship with Hitler before he, in fact, invaded
No, we fucking didn't.
the rest of Europe. Come on. The reason he would
We
not
were
meet
mostly
with President
indifferent.
Obama is because President Obama said, we're going to talk about denuclearization.
Wow, Poe's
we're
law,
not going
didn't
to
expect it.
legitimize you, and we're going to continue to put stronger and stronger sanctions on you. That's why he wouldn't meet with us.
All right,
And
let's
it didn't
move
happen.
on. Let's
Excuse
move on
me.
and talk
He
about
left
American
me a
families.
mess, Kristen.
President Trump, okay, we do
They
need to
left
move on.
me a mess. North Korea was a mess.
We
And
need
in
to
fact,
move
if
on
you
so that
remember
we
the
can get
first
to
2
all
or
of our
3
other
months,
questions tonight,
there was a
President
very
Trump.
dangerous period in my first 3 months before we sort of worked things out a little bit.
Okay.
There was a they left us a mess. And Obama would be, I think, the first to say it was the single biggest problem he thought that our country had.
Okay, let's move on to American families and the economy. One of the issues that's most important to them is health care, as you both know. Today, there was a key vote on a new Supreme Court Justice, Amy Coney Barrett, and health care is at the center of her confirmation fight. Over 20 million Americans get their health insurance through the Affordable Care Act. It's headed to the Supreme Court, and your administration, Mr. President, is advocating for the court to overturn it. If the Supreme Court does overturn that law, those 20 million Americans could lose their health insurance almost overnight. So what would you do if those people have their health insurance taken away? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Sure. First of all, I've already done something that nobody thought was possible. Through the legislature, I terminated the individual mandate. That is the worst part of Obamacare, as we call it. The individual mandate where you have to pay a fortune for the privilege of not having to pay for bad health insurance. I terminated. It's gone.
I like that
now
wording.
It's in court because Obamacare is no good. But then I made a decision. Run it as well as you can to my people, great people. Run it as well as you can. I could have gone the other route and made everybody very unhappy. They ran it. Premiums are down. Everything's down. Here's the problem. No matter how well you run it, it's no good. What we'd like to do is terminate it. We have the individual mandate done. I don't know that it's going to work. If we don't win, we will have to run it, and we'll have Obamacare, but it'll be better run. But it no longer is Obamacare, because without the individual mandate, it's much different. Pre-existing conditions will always stay. What I would like to do is a much better health care, much better, will always protect people with pre-existing. So I'd like to terminate Obamacare, come up with a brand new, beautiful health care. The Democrats will do it because there'll be tremendous pressure on them, and we might even have the House by that time, and I think we're going to win the House, okay? You'll see, but I think we're going to win the House. But come up with a better health care, always protecting people with pre-existing conditions. And one thing very important, we have 180 million people out there that have great private health care. Far more than we're talking about with Obamacare. Joe Biden is going to terminate all of those policies. These are people that love their health care, people that have been successful, middle-income people, been successful. They have 180 million plans, 180 million people, families. Under what he wants to do, which will basically be socialized medicine, he won't even have a choice, they want to terminate 180 million plans. We have done an incredible job on health care, and we're going to do even better.
Okay,
Let me
Vice
respond.
President Biden, yes, this is for you. Your health care plan calls for building on Obamacare. So my question is, what is your plan if the law is ruled unconstitutional by the Supreme Court? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
What I'm going to do is pass Obamacare with a public option. It'll become Biden care. The public option is an option
Ergo,
that says that
socialized
if
medicine.
you, in
Thank
fact,
you.
do not have the wherewithal to be, if you qualify for Medicaid and you do not have the wherewithal in your state to get Medicaid, you automatically are enrolled, providing competition for insurance companies. That's what's going to happen. Secondly, we're going to make sure we reduce the premiums and
automated
reduce drug
enrollment.
prices.
Yeah,
by
that's
making
gonna
sure
create
that there's
competition.
competition that doesn't exist now by allowing the Medicare to negotiate drug prices with the insurance companies. Thirdly, the idea that I want to eliminate private insurance, the reason why I had such a fight with 20 candidates for the nomination was I support private insurance. That's why not one single person with private insurance would lose their insurance under my plan, nor did they under Obamacare. They did not lose their insurance unless they chose they wanted to go to something else. Lastly, we're going to make sure we're in a situation that we actually protect pre-existing. There's no way he can protect pre-existing conditions. None, zero. You can't do it in the ether. He's been talking about this for a long time.
And
there is no, he's never come up with a plan. I guess we're going to get the pre-existing conditions plan at the same time we get the infrastructure plan that we've been waiting since 17, 18, 19, and 20. The fact, I still have a few more minutes. I know you're getting anxious. The fact is that he's already cost the American people, because of his terrible handling of the COVID virus and the economic spillover, 10 million people have lost their private insurance. And he wants to take away 22 million more people who have it under Obamacare, and over 110 million people with pre-existing conditions. And all the people from COVID are going to have pre-existing conditions. What are they going to do?
I have a follow-up for you, Vice President Biden. It relates to something that President Trump said. He's accusing you of wanting socialized medicine. What do you say to people who have concerns that your health care plan, which includes a government insurance option, takes the country one step closer to a health care system run entirely by the government? What's your response to
it's
them?
ridiculous. It's like saying that, the idea that the fact that there's a public option that people can choose, that makes it a socialist plan. Look, the difference between the president, I think health care is not a privilege, it's a right. Everyone should have the right to have affordable health care. And I am very proud of my plan. It's gotten endorsed by all the major labor unions, as well as a whole range of other people who, in fact, are concerned in the medical field. This is something that's going to save people's lives, and this is going to give some people an opportunity to have health care for their children. How many of you home are worried and rolling around in bed tonight wondering what in God's name you're going to do if you get sick because you've lost your home insurance, your health insurance your company's gone under? We have to provide health insurance for people at an affordable rate, and that's what I do.
President Trump,
Excuse me, he was
your
there
response.
for 47 years. He didn't do it. He was now there as vice president for 8 years, and it's not like it was 25 years ago. It was 3 3/4. It was just a little while ago, right? Less than 4 years ago. He didn't do anything. He didn't do it. He wants socialized medicine, and it's not that he wants it. His vice president, I mean, she is more liberal than Bernie Sanders and wants it even more. Bernie Sanders wants it. The Democrats want it. You're going to have socialized medicine, just like he went with fracking. We're not going to have fracking. We're going to stop fracking. We're going to stop fracking. Then he goes to Pennsylvania after he gets a nomination, where he got very lucky to get it. And he goes to Pennsylvania and he says, oh, we're going to have fracking. And you never asked that question. And by the way, so far, I respect very much the way you're handling this, I have to say.
By the way.
But somebody should ask the question.
You can ask
he goes for a year. There will be no fracking.
We have a number of topics we're going to get to.
That's a big question.
We're going to get to.
It's the same thing with socialized medicine.
I have to respond.
Vice President, your response, please.
My response is people deserve to have affordable health care, period. Period, period, period. And the Biden care proposal will, in fact, provide for that affordable health care, lower premiums. What we're going to do is going to cost some money. It's going to cost over $750 billion over 10 years to do it.
That's not some money.
We're going to have lower premiums. You can buy into the better plans.
You can tell this is a guy who has no
plans,
fucking idea
lower
how
your
much anything
premiums,
costs.
Deal with unexpected billing, and have your drug prices drop significantly. He keeps talking about it. He hasn't done a thing for anybody on health care. Not a thing.
Kristen, when
Very
he
quickly,
says,
then I want to talk
when
about
he
what's
says
happening
public
on Capitol
option,
Hill.
he's talking about socialized medicine, and when he and healthcare. When he talks about a public option, he's talking about destroying your Medicare, totally destroyed, and destroying your Social Security, and this whole country will come down. You know, Bernie Sanders tried it in his state. He tried it in his state. His governor was a very liberal governor. They wanted to make it work.
Okay,
let's let Vice President Biden respond. It doesn't
Vice
work.
President
He's
Biden,
a very
your response.
confused guy. He thinks he's running against somebody else. He's running against Joe Biden. I beat all those other people because I disagreed with them. Joe Biden he's running against. And the idea that we're in a situation that they're going to destroy Medicare, this is the guy that the actuary at Medicare said, if in fact, at Social Security, if in fact he continues to withhold his plan to withhold the tax on Social Security will be bankrupt by 2023.
Oh, more
no
doom and
way
gloom.
To make up for it. This is the guy who's tried to cut Medicare. So no, I mean, the idea that Donald Trump is lecturing me on Social Security and Medicare? Come on.
He tried to get rid of. He tried to hurt Social Security years ago. Years ago. Go back and look at the records. He tried to hurt Social Security years ago.
All right, let's move on. I'm going to move on. Mr. President, I have to move on to the next question.
They said the stock market will boom if I'm elected. If he's elected, the stock market will crash.
Okay, let's move on to the next question very quickly.
Look, the idea that the stock market is booming is his only measure of what's happening. Where I come from in Scranton and Claymont, the people don't
You
live
are
off
not
the
from
stock market.
fucking Scranton.
Just in the last three years during this crisis, the billionaires in this country made, according to
really pisses me off with that.
$700 billion more dollars.
Hey, it might just be his pre-existing condition kicking in.
That's his only measure.
If that's it, I'll forgive
What
him.
happens to the ordinary people out there?
But it's not.
What
He's trying
happens
to
them?
fire up his working class Pennsylvanian chops. No, you fucking are.
Stock are through the roof,
All right.
and he doesn't come from Scranton. That's like he lived there for a short period of time before he even knew it.
Move
He
on
left
to the
Scranton
next
when he was
question.
10 years
People
old.
of Pennsylvania
Let me
will
move
show
on
you
to my
that.
next question,
They
gentlemen.
understand.
As of tonight, more than 12 million people are out of work. And as of tonight, 8 million more Americans have fallen into poverty, and more families are going hungry every day. Those hit hardest are women and people of color. They see Washington fighting over a relief bill. Mr. President, why haven't you been able to get them the help they need? 30 seconds here.
Because Nancy Pelosi doesn't want to approve it. I do.
But you're the president.
I do, but I still have to get. Unfortunately, that's one of the reasons I think we're going to take over the House because of her. Nancy Pelosi doesn't want to approve anything because she'd love to have some victories on a date called November 3rd. Nancy Pelosi does not want to approve it. We are ready, willing, and able to do something. Don't forget, we've already approved 3 plans, and it's gone through, including the Democrats, in all fairness. This one she doesn't want. It's near the election because she thinks it helps her politically. I think it hurts her politically.
All right, Mr. Vice President.
You know, the Republican leader in the United States Senate said he can't pass it. He will not be able to pass it. He does not have Republican votes. Why isn't he talking to his Republican friends?
Let me follow up with you, Vice President
we made a
Biden,
deal, the
because
Republicans
let me
will
ask
pass
Vice
it.
President Biden a question. You are the leader of the Democratic Party. Why have you not pushed the Democrats to get a deal for the American people?
Well, I have, and they have pushed it. Look, they passed this act all the way back in the beginning of the summer. This is like it's not new. It's been out there. This HEROES Act has been sitting there. And look at what's happening. When I was in charge of the Recovery Act with $800 billion, I was able to get $145 billion to local communities that have to balance their budgets and states that have to balance their budgets, so then have to fire firefighters, teachers, first responders, law enforcement officers, so they could keep their cities and counties running. He will not support that. They have not done a thing for them. And Mitch McConnell said, let them go bankrupt. Let them go bankrupt. Come on. What's the matter with these guys?
The bill that was passed in the House was a bailout of badly run, high-crime, Democrat, all run by Democrats, cities and states. It was a way of getting a lot of money, billions and billions of dollars to these states. It was also a way of getting a lot of money from our people's pockets to people that come into our country illegally. We were going to take care of everything for them. And what that does, and I'd love to do that, I'd love to help them, but what that does, everybody all over the world will start pouring into our country. We can't do it. This was a way of taking care of them. This was a way of spending on things that had nothing to do with COVID, as per your question. But it was really a big bailout for badly run Democrat cities and states.
All right,
By the way,
I want
if I get elected, I'm running as a proud Democrat, but I'm going to be an American president. I don't see red states and blue states. What I see is American, United States. And folks, every single state out there finds themselves in trouble. They're going to start laying off, whether they're red or blue, cops, firefighters, first responders, teachers, because they have to balance their budget. And the founders were smart. They allowed the federal government to deficit spend to compensate for the United States of America.
I want to talk about the minimum wage, gentlemen. Mr. Vice President, we are talking a lot about struggling small businesses and business owners these days. Do you think this is the right time to ask them to raise the minimum wage? You, of course, support a $15 federal minimum wage.
I do, because I think one of the things we're going to have to do is we're going to have to bail them out, too. We should be bailing them out now.
I pump more money into it.
You got 1 in 6 of them going under.
Price fix.
They're not going to be able to make it back. They
Makes
passed
it worse.
a package that allows us to be able to call PPP. Money is supposed to go to help them do everything from organize how they can deal with their businesses being open safely. Schools, how they can make classrooms smaller, how they can hire more teachers, how they can put ventilation systems in. They need the help. The businesses as well as the schools need the help. But these
No,
guys
actually,
will
the
not
schools,
help
since
them.
they're a lot of the
It's
schools are
not
going
giving
digital,
them
they
any
need to
of the
actually get
money.
their fucking
We are
funding
gonna
cut.
move on to
One
immigration,
thing very
but I
quickly,
want
he
to
said
get
we
your
have to help our
reaction.
small businesses by raising the minimum wage. That's not helping. I think it should be a state option. Alabama is different than New York. New York is different from Vermont. Every state is
Federalism.
different. It should be a state option.
You said very
we have
recently-
to help. It's very important. We have to help our small businesses.
You
How
said-
are you helping your small businesses when you're forcing wages? What's going to happen, and what's been proven to happen, is when you do that, these small businesses fire many of their employees.
You said very
Not true,
recently you would
by the way.
consider raising the federal minimum
it.
wage to $15 an
Say it.
hour. You said recently you would consider raising the federal minimum wage to
What I
$15 an
really
hour. Is that
like,
still the case?
And I would consider it to an extent, but
In a
what I
second
really like,
administration?
in a second
it's a big
administration,
no-go
but
for me
not
from
to a
Trump.
level that's going to put all these businesses out of business. It should be a state option. Look, I've lived in different places. I know different places. They're all different. Some places, $15 is not so bad. In other places, other states, $15 would be
Okay, President
ruinous.
Trump, thank you. Quick
No
response,
one
Vice
should
President
work
Biden.
2 jobs, 1 job, be below poverty. People are making $6, $7, $8 an hour. These first responders, we all clap for as they come down the street because they've allowed us to make it. What's happening? They deserve a minimum wage of $15.
First
Anything
responders get
below
paid
that
above
puts you
minimum
below
wage
the
in most
poverty
places.
level.
It's
And there is no evidence that when you raise the minimum wage, businesses go out of business.
Wrong, there
That
is.
simply not true.
We're going to talk
It's an
about
old saw.
immigration. We're going to talk about
Academic
immigration
agents
now, gentlemen.
debunked
And
all of
we're gonna
this
talk
minimum
about
wage
families
crap
in this context.
several
Mr.
times, I
President, your
think.
administration separated children from their parents at the border, at least 4,000 kids. You've since reversed your zero-tolerance policy, but the United States can't locate the parents of more than 500 children. So how will these families ever be reunited?
Children are brought here by
I agree, Nolan.
coyotes and
Firefighters
lots of
deserve
bad
to be,
people,
should be paid probably a bit better, but
cartels,
also most
and they're brought
firefighters
here,
are
and they
volunteers.
used to use them to get
volunteer
into our
firefighters.
country. We now have as strong a border as we've ever had. We're over 400 miles
And that
of
shouldn't be a
brand new
federal
wall.
thing anyway,
You
because
see the
firefighters
numbers,
are
and we let people in,
city,
but they have to
county.
come in legally, and they come in through
But
merit.
how will you
But
reunite
let me
these
just tell
kids
you,
with their
Let me just
families,
tell you,
Mr.
they
President?
built cages. You know, they used to say, "I built the cages," and then they had a picture in a certain newspaper, and it was a picture of these horrible cages, and they said, "Look at these cages. President Trump built them," and then it was determined they were built in 2014. That was him.
Do you
They
have a
built
plan to
cages.
reunite the kids
Yes,
with
we're
their
working on it
families?
very.
Yeah, I wasn't aware that
we're
President
trying
Trump was in the
very hard.
cage-making
But a lot
business
of these
back
kids
in
come out without the parents. They
2014.
come over through cartels and through coyotes and through gangs.
Vice President Biden, let me bring you into this
525
conversation. Quick response and then another question to you.
These 500-plus kids came with parents. They separated them at the border to make it a disincentive to come to begin with. Real tough. We're really strong. And guess what? They cannot, it's not coyotes didn't bring them over. Their parents were with them. They got separated from their parents. And it makes us a laughing stock and violates every notion of who we are as a nation.
Let me ask you a follow-up
Kristen,
question.
they did it. We changed the policy.
Your response
they
to that?
did it. We changed.
did not
They built the
separate
cages.
they,
who built the cages, Joe?
Let's talk about what
Who
we're
built the
talking about.
cages,
Let's
Joe?
talk about what we're talking about. What happened? Parents were ripped, their kids were ripped from their arms and separated. And now they cannot find over 500 of sets of those parents, and those kids are alone.
I have heard
Nowhere to
reports that they
go.
were
Nowhere to
separated
go.
from parents, but
It's criminal.
at the same time, I still have
criminal.
to sit there
Let
and
me
look at it.
ask
as-
you
Kristen, I will
about
say this.
immigration.
They went
10
down.
seconds,
We
and
brought
then I need to
reporters,
ask.
Okay.
everything. They are
The whole process
well
is a fucking
taken
bureaucratic
care of.
hellhole.
They're in
Why is that? Because
facilities that
bureaucracy
were
is
so
shit in
clean.
this
Some of
country.
them
I've
haven't
gotten
been
such good-
reunited
But
with
just
their
answer
Horrible,
one
sure.
question. Who
We
built
can
the
try to
cages?
fix it.
I'd love you to ask him that. Who built the cages?
Let me ask about your immigration policy, Mr. Vice President. The Obama administration did fail to deliver immigration reform, which had been a key promise during the administration. It also presided
She's
over
really
record
hitting Joe
deportations
hard,
as
isn't
well
she?
as family detentions.
Yeah, I'm
before
actually
changing
surprised.
course. So why should voters trust you with an immigration overhaul now?
Because we made a mistake. It took too long to get it right. It took too long to get it right. I'll be president of the United States. not
Sorry,
vice
Joe,
president of the
you're
United
technically
States.
going to be
And the fact
the
is,
vice
I've made it
president
very
still.
clear.
We know who the president's going to
Within
be.
100 days,
If
I'm
you
going to
win,
send to the United States Congress a pathway to citizenship
Theo
for
Harris.
over 11 million undocumented
Yeah.
people. And all of those so-called dreamers, those DACA kids, they're going to be immediately certified again to be able to stay in this country.
Yeah,
Put on a path to citizenship.
the only cop I want
The
to see
idea
defunded.
that they are being sent home by this guy, and they want to do that, is they
She's
go
not the
to a
only one, but
country
she's
they've
one of the
never
top ones
seen
I'd like to
before.
see defunded.
I can imagine you're 5 years old.
Yeah.
Your parents are taking you across the Rio Grande River, and it's illegal. And you say, "Oh no, Mom, leave me here. I'm not going to go with you." They've been here. Many of them are model citizens. Over 20,000 of them are first responders out there taking care of people during this crisis. We owe them. We owe them.
President
Kristen,
Trump,
he
your
had
reaction.
8 years to do what he said he was going to do. And I've
We
changed
did.
without having a specific. We got rid of catch and release. We got rid of a lot of horrible things that they put in and that they lived with. But he had 8 years he was vice president. He did nothing except build cages to keep children in.
Vice President
Wrong.
Biden, your response.
The catch and release, you know what he's talking about there? If in fact you had a family came across and they were arrested, they in fact were given a date to show up for their hearing. They were released. And guess what? They showed up for a hearing. And this is the first president in the history of the United States of America that anybody seeking asylum has to do it in another country. That's never happened before in America. That's never happened before in America. You come to the United States and you make your case that I seek asylum based on the following.
Well,
on the following
you and
premise,
your
why
lot
I
made
deserve
Edward
it under
Snowden
American
seek
law.
asylum in a different
They're
country.
free
I know,
to
right?
swallow
Just
on
saying.
the other side of the river.
President Trump, your response.
So
30
important.
seconds, and then we'll move
It just shows that he has no understanding of immigration or the laws. Catch and release is a disaster. A murderer would come in, a rapist would come in, a very bad person would come in. We would take their name. We have to release them into our country. And then you say they come back. Less than 1% of the people come back. We have to send ICE out and Border Patrol out to find them. We would say, come back in 2 years, 3 years. We're going to give you a court case. You need Perry Mason. We're going to give you a court case. When you say they come back, they don't come back, Joe. They never come back. Only the really, I hate to say this, but those with the lowest IQ, they might come back.
Okay,
But they're
President
very,
Trump, let's
very
give
few.
Vice President Biden a chance to respond, and then we're going to move on to the
You
next
don't know
section.
the law, Joe.
Vice President Biden, your response.
Know the law, what he's telling you is simply not true.
Well, check it out. They don't come back.
Check it out.
All right, let's move
But
on
we don't have
to
to
the
worry
next
about it.
Those
section.
are
They
slowest
terminated
IQ
it,
might
so we
come
don't have
back
to worry
wolf.
about
Let's
it.
move on to
I
the
don't
next
play the
You have
whole
section.
IQ game, but
525
damn,
kids
that was
not
funny.
knowing where in God's name they're going to be and lost their parents.
Go ahead.
All right, let's talk about our next section, which is race in America. And I want to talk about the way Black and brown Americans experience race in this country. Part of that experience is something called the talk. It happens regardless of class and income. Parents who feel they have no choice but to prepare their children for the chance that they could be targeted, including by the police, for no reason other than the color of their skin. Mr. Vice President, in the next 2 minutes, I want you to speak directly to these families. Do you understand why these parents fear for their children?
I do. I do. You know, my daughter is a social worker, and she's written a lot about this. She's
this
a
the
graduate degree from
one
the
who's a
University
social
of Pennsylvania
worker
social work.
who was also
And, you
somehow
know,
a political consultant
One of the
expert as soon
reasons
as he got
why I
elected?
ended up working
Or was
on
that
the
his
east
sister? I
side
don't
of
remember
Wilmington,
which.
Delaware, which is 90% African American, was to learn more about what was going on. What I never had to tell my daughter, if she's pulled over, make sure she puts, for a traffic stop, put both hands on top of the wheel and don't reach for the glove box because someone may shoot you. But a black parent, no matter how wealthy or how poor they are, has to teach their child when you're walking down the street, don't have a hoodie on when you go across the street. Making sure that you, in fact, if you get pulled over, yes, yes, sir, no, sir, hands on top of the wheel, because you are, in fact, the victim, whether you're a person making child of a $300,000 a year person or someone who's on food stamps. The fact of the matter is, there is institutional racism in America. And we have always said, We've never lived up to it. Do we hold these truths to be
Wait,
self-evident?
did he just
All
say
men and
that
women
you're
are
a
created
victim
equal. Guess
regardless
what?
of how much you make
We
because of the color of your skin?
have never, ever lived up to it, but we've always constantly been moving the needle further and further to inclusion, not exclusion. This is the first president to come along and says, that's the end of that. We're not going to do that anymore. We have to provide for economic opportunity, better education, better health care, better access to schooling, better access to opportunity to borrow money to start businesses. All the things we can do, and I've laid out a clear plan as to how to do those things, just to give people a shot. It's about accumulating the ability to have wealth as well as it is to be free from violence.
President Trump, same question to you, and let me remind you of the question. I would like you to speak directly to these families. Do you understand why these parents fear for their children?
Yes, I do. And again, he's been in government 47 years. He never did a thing except in 1994 when he did such harm to the black community. And they were called, and he called them super predators. And he said that. He said it, super predators. And they have never lived that down. 1994, your crime bill, the super predators. Nobody has done more for the black community than Donald Trump.
Possible exception.
With the exception of Abraham Lincoln, possible exception, but the exception of Abraham Lincoln, nobody has done what I've done. Criminal justice reform, Obama and Joe didn't do it.
Might be a bit of a
They
stretch.
tried because they had no chance at doing it. They might have wanted to do it, but if you had to see the arms I had to twist to get that done, it was not a pretty picture, and everybody knows it, including some very liberal people that cried in my office. They cried in the Oval Office. 2 weeks later, they're out saying, gee, we have to defeat him. Criminal justice reform, prison reform, opportunity zones with Tim Scott, a great senator from South Carolina. He came in with this incredible idea for opportunity zones. It's one of the most successful programs. People don't talk about it.
I mean,
tremendous investment
Truman's
is being made. Biggest
desegregating the military
beneficiary
is
to
kind of a
black
big
and
one.
Hispanic communities. And then historically
Though
black
that wouldn't have been necessary if
colleges and
previous Democrat by the
universities.
name of Woodrow Wilson
After 3
hadn't
years of
completely
coming to the
resegregated
office,
the
I love
entire
some of
fucking
those guys.
federal
They were
government.
great. They
So-
came into the office and they said, I said, what are you doing? After 3 years, I said, why do you keep coming back? Because we have no funding. I said, you don't have to come back every year. We have to come back because President Obama would never give them long-term funding, and I did. 10-year long-term funding, and I gave them more money than they asked for because they said, I think you need more. And I said, the only bad part about this is I may never see you again because I got very friendly with them, and they like me and I like them. But I saved it. Colleges and universities.
Okay, and we're going to talk about both of your records, but your response to that, Vice President?
My response to that is I never, ever said what he accused me of saying. The fact of the matter is, in 2000, though, after the crime bill had been in the law for a while, this is a guy who said, the problem with the crime bill, there's not enough people in jail. There's not enough people in jail. And go on my website, get the quote, the date when he said it. Not enough people. He talked about marauding gangs, young gangs, and the people who are going to maraud our cities. This is a guy who in the Central Park five innocent black kids, he continued to push for making sure that they got the death penalty. None of them were guilty of the crimes they were
That part's not
suggesting.
entirely
Look,
accurate.
and talk
None of them
about
were found
granted,
guilty.
He did, in fact, let 20 people, he commuted 20 people sentences. We commuted
That
over
or
1,000
sentences were overturned. I don't remember the full details
over
of that
1,000.
one.
The very law he's talking about is a law that, in fact, initiated by Barack Obama. And secondly, we're in a situation here where the federal prison system was reduced by 38,000 people under our administration. And one of these things we should be doing, there should be no minimum mandatories in the law. That's why I'm offering $20 billion to states to change their state laws to eliminate minimum mandatories and set up drug courts. No one should be
Starting
going
with
to
your
jail
son.
because they have a drug problem.
right?
They should be going to rehabilitation, not to jail.
minimum
We
mandatories
should
are something that
fundamentally
probably should
change
be
the system,
heavily
and that's
reformed.
what I'm going to do.
They
Why
kind of
didn't he do it 4
tied
years
judges'
ago?
hands,
Why
which
didn't you
ruins
do
the
that
purpose
4
of
years
judges.
ago, even less than that? Why didn't you
I
do it?
am
You were
not-
Yep.
vice president. You keep talking about all these things you're going to do, and you're going to do this. But
Could
you
have
were
pushed
there
with
just a short
the-
time ago.
the
and
president who
you
was
guys did
promised to be
nothing.
the,
You know, Joe, I ran because
criminal
of
reform
you.
president
I ran
because-
because of Barack
for
Obama.
no other reason than he was
because
black.
you did a poor job. If I thought you did a good job, I would have never run. I would have never run. I ran because of you. I'm looking at you now. You're a politician. I ran because of you.
All right, Vice President Biden, your response to that, and then I do have some questions for both of you.
Well, I tell you what, I hope he does look at me, because what's happening here is, you know who I am, you know who he is.
No, I
You know
don't
his
actually.
character, you know my character. You know our reputations for honor and telling
Yeah.
the truth.
Okay, character.
I am anxious to have
Both of
this
you guys
race.
don't exactly have the
I'm
best
anxious
character.
to see this take
Okay?
place. I am. The character of the country is on the ballot. Our character is on the ballot. Look at us closely.
Let me ask some
Progress,
follow-up.
optimism,
Respond,
If
and then we're
this
going to have
stuff
follow-up.
Or doom and
is true
gloom
about
and-
Russia,
and a
Ukraine,
return to
China,
swamp
other
corruption.
countries, Iraq. If this is true, then he's a corrupt politician.
All right.
So don't give me the stuff about how you're this.
Oh, he said it. It's in the game.
I'm calling you a corrupt politician.
Nobody-
Take a look
President
at the
Trump, I
laptop
want to
from
stay
hell.
on the issue
Excuse
of
me,
race. We're
take a
talking
look at
about
the
the issue.
laptop from hell.
Yeah, Nolan, it's a
President
bit
Trump,
better.
we're
It is
talking about
better,
race
but,
right now, and I
you
do
know,
want to
his
stay on the
history
issue of
is-
race. President Trump,
And I
you've
have to
just
respond to that.
But hey,
Because,
he
look,
wears it on
there
his
are
sleeve.
50
He doesn't try to fucking
former
hide it.
National intelligence folks who said that what he's accusing me of is a Russian plant. They have said that this has all the five former heads of the CIA, both parties, say
Not
what he's
people you should
saying is
trust
a bunch of
ever.
garbage. Nobody believes it except his and his good friend Rudy Giuliani.
You mean the laptop is now another Russia hoax?
And
You
that's
gotta be-
exactly what-
Is this
that's
where you're
exactly
going?
what
This
was
is
told.
where he's going. The
Oh my God.
laptop is Russia,
Yeah.
Russia,
Gentlemen,
Russia.
I want to stay on the issue
That's
of
actually
race.
worse,
You
by
have
the
to
way.
be
If
kidding.
it's
Here we
Russian,
go
that's
again with
worse.
Russia.
We're going to continue on the issue of race. Mr. President, you've
that one.
described the Black Lives Matter movement as a symbol of hate. You've shared a video of a man chanting white power to millions of your supporters. You've said that black professional athletes
When did you do that?
exercising their First Amendment rights should be fired. What do you say to Americans who say that kind of language from a president is
You know, that's
contributing
rich.
to a climate of hate
First
and
Amendment
racial
rights
strife?
should be
Well, yeah,
fired.
the first time I
What is it
ever
these
heard of
people always
Black
say about
Lives Matter,
censorship?
they
Oh,
were
go start
chanting
your own?
Pigs in a blanket, talking about police. Pigs.
NFL's
Pigs
not a
talking about
public
our police.
institution.
Pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon. I said, that's a horrible thing. And they were marching down the street. And that was my first glimpse of Black Lives Matter. I thought it was a terrible thing. As far as my relationships with all people, I think I have great relationships with all people. I am the least racist person in this room.
Well, what do you say to Americans who are concerned by
Whoa.
that rhetoric?
I don't know what to say. I got criminal justice reform done and prison reform and opportunity zones. I took care of black colleges and universities.
Fact checkers are going to go nuts with that one.
I don't know what to say. They can say anything. I mean, they can say anything. It makes me sad because I am the least racist person. I can't even see the audience because it's so dark. But I don't care who's in the audience. I'm the least racist person in this room.
Okay, Vice President Biden, let me ask you very quickly, and then I have a follow-up question for you.
Did he just call him Abraham Lincoln?
Racist presidents we've had in modern history.
No.
He pours fuel on every single racist fire. Every single one.
Oh, you mean like Obama did?
The escalator saying he's going to get rid of those Mexican rapists. He's banned Muslims because they're Muslims. He has moved around.
No, he banned
made
those
everything
countries.
worse
He banned
across
travel
the
from those
board. He says
countries, not
about the
people,
poor boys.
because those
Last
countries
time we were
happen to
on
be places
stage
where
he said, I
Islamic
told him to
terror
stand
is
down and
exported.
stand ready. Come on. This guy is a dog whistle about as big as a foghorn.
Then it's not a dog whistle!
Respond, and then I have a follow-up.
He made a reference to Abraham Lincoln. Where did that come in? I mean,
You said
where
you're
did that-
Abraham
No,
Lincoln.
where did that? No.
You said-
I said not since Abraham
Oh
Lincoln.
my
has
God.
anybody
Hey, this
done
is
what I've
gold.
done for the black community.
And I'm
I didn't
saying-
say I'm Abraham Lincoln. I said not since Abraham Lincoln has anybody done what I've done for the black.
Bit of a moment there,
Now,
Joe.
You have done nothing other than the crime bill, which put
Oh, God.
tens of thousands of black men, mostly in jail.
All right, let me,
And you know
let me,
what?
a- let me
they
ask
remember
Vice
it
President
because if
Biden
you look
a
at what's
question.
Not
happening
true.
with the
Okay,
voting
the
right
crime
now,
bill
Let me
didn't
ask
put
Vice
more
President
people in
Biden.
jail
treated
then?
them
About-
very, very badly.
The-
Just
the-
take a
And
look
you can
at
just
what's
say your
happening
biggest
out
piece
there.
of
Vice President
legislation in
Biden, let
your
me give you
career
a
was a
chance to
complete
respond
failure then,
in
I
this
guess, huh?
context. Crime bills that you supported in the 80s and 90s contributed to the incarceration of tens of thousands of young black men who had small amounts of drugs in their possession. They are sons, they are brothers, they're fathers, they're
Well, it's
uncles.
terrible fucking
whose
legislation.
families are still to this day, some of them suffering the consequences. So speak to those families. Why should they vote for you?
One of the things is that in the 80s, we passed 100%, all 100 senators voted for it, a bill on drugs and how to deal with drugs. It was a mistake. I've been trying to change the since then, particularly the portion on cocaine. That's why I've been arguing that, in fact, we should not send anyone to jail for a pure
Hunter Biden
drug offense.
is the cocaine
They should be
czar.
going into treatment across the board. That's what we should be spending money on. That's why I set up drug courts, which were never funded by our Republican friends. They should not be going to jail for a drug or an alcohol problem. They should be going into treatment. That's what we've been trying to do. That's what I'm going to get done, because I think the American people have now seen that, in fact, it was a mistake to pass those laws relating to the drug. But they were not in the crime bill.
But why didn't he get it done? See, it's all talk, no action with these politicians. Why didn't he get it done? That's what I'm going to do when I become president. You were vice president along with Obama as your president, your leader, for 8 years. Why didn't you get it done? You had 8 years to get it done. Now you're saying you're going to get it done because you're all talk and no action, Jim.
We got a lot of it done. We released 38,000. We got 38,000 prisoners left from the.
You got nothing done.
38,000 prisoners were released from federal prison.
Virtually no. There was very little to no
There were over
criminal justice
1,000
reform in
people
the
who
Obama
were given
administration.
clemency. In fact, we're the ones that put in the legislation saying we could look at pattern and practice of police departments and what they were doing, how they were conducting themselves. I could go on, but we began the process. We lost an election. That's why I'm running to win back that election and change his terrible policy.
I just asked one question. Why didn't you do it in the 8 years, a short time ago? Why didn't you do it? You just said, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this. You put tens of thousands of mostly black young men in prison. Now you're saying you're going to undo that. Why didn't you get it done? You had 8 years with Obama.
This is, by the way, an area where Trump can really hammer it in, because he can't be hit with, well, why didn't you do it in that period? Because he wasn't a politician until 2016.
That's the answer.
Well, you got to talk them into it, Joe. Sometimes
All right.
you got to talk them into it.
We're going to move on to our next section,
like I did with criminal justice reform. I had to talk Democrats into it.
Gentlemen, we're running out of time, so we got to get on to climate change, please. You both have very different visions on climate change. President Trump, you say that environmental regulations have hurt jobs in the energy sector. Vice President Biden, you have said you see addressing climate change as an opportunity to create new jobs. For each of you, how would you both combat climate change and support job growth at the same time? Starting with you, President Trump, you have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
So we have the Trillion Trees program. We have so many different programs. I do love the environment, but what I want is the cleanest, crystal clear water, the cleanest air. We have the best, lowest number in carbon emissions, which is a big standard that I notice Obama goes with all the time. Not Joe. I haven't heard Joe use the term because I'm not sure he knows.
Any moment now, he's going to call Joe Biden low IQ.
And we have the best carbon emission numbers that we've had in 35 years under this administration. We are working so well with industry, but here's what we can't do. Look at China, how filthy it is. Look at Russia. Look at India. It's filthy. The air is filthy. The Paris Accord, I took us out because we were going to have to spend trillions of dollars, and we were treated very unfairly. When they put us in there, they did us a great disservice. They were going to take away our businesses. I will not sacrifice tens of millions of jobs, thousands and thousands of companies because of the Paris Accord. It was so unfair. China doesn't kick in until 2030. Russia goes back to a low standard, and we kicked in right away. It would have destroyed our businesses. So, you ready? We have done an incredible job environmentally. We have the cleanest air, the cleanest water, and the best carbon emission standards that we've seen in many, many years.
Okay, I was about to say, you better not say in the world, because
that
is not true.
Vice President Biden, 2 minutes.
Knock, knock, Switzerland here.
Climate change, climate warming, global warming is an existential threat to humanity. We have a moral obligation to deal with it.
God, not this shit.
More
doom and gloom.
Believe the scientists. We're going to pass the point of no return within the next 8 to 10 years.
So I'm going to do it every time he just starts dooming.
4 more years of this man eliminating all the regulations that were put in by us to clean up the climate, to clean up to limit
Man, he's the fucking black pill candidate,
will put us in
man.
a position where we're going to be in real trouble. Here's
He's
where we
the
have a
oldest
great
emo
opportunity.
I've ever come
I was
across.
able to get both all the environmental
Yeah, he doesn't even need a
organizations
razor
as well as
blade for
labor,
that
the people
thin,
worried about
ancient
jobs,
skin. Just
to
give him a,
support my climate plan.
I don't know,
because what it does, it will create
coaster. That'll
millions
be enough to
of
slice his
new
wrist open.
good-paying jobs. We're
For
going
Mummy,
to invest
to get
in, for
attention from
example,
Mummy.
50,000 charging stations on our highways so that we can own the electric car market of the future. In the meantime,
And
China
the
is
environmental
doing that.
cost of the
We're gonna be in a
manufacture of
position
those
where
electric
we're going
cars,
to
Joe?
see to it that we're going to take 4 million existing buildings and 2 million existing homes and retrofit them so they don't leak
Nah,
as much
Butternight's
energy,
too sharp there,
saving
Nolan.
hundreds of millions
coaster,
of
like the
barrels
side of a
oil
wooden
in
coaster
the
would be
process and creating significant number of jobs. And by the way, the whole idea of what this is all going to do, it's going to create millions of jobs, and it's going to clean the environment. Our health and our jobs are at stake.
You know,
That's
I hate
what's
hearing
happening.
presidential and
and
presidential
right now,
candidates
by
say,
the
I'm
way,
going to create
Wall
X number of
Street
jobs.
firms
Not your fucking
indicated
job.
that my plan will in fact create 18.6 million jobs, 7 million more.
He
than
throws out a
businesses
lot
in
of
Wall Street,
numbers
and
in this
I'll
debate,
create $1
and
trillion
I
more
can't
in economic
think of how they
growth
link
than
up to
his proposal
anything.
does. Not on climate, just on the
He
economy.
just throws it out.
President
Oh,
Trump
$1 trillion,
Today
blah, blah,
came
blah.
out and said very strongly, $6,500
Trump's right.
will be
He is
taken
the
away from
typical,
families
he's the
under his
cliche
plan.
politician.
That his plan is an economic disaster. If you look at what he wants to do, if you look at his plan,
Nothing
his
to do with
environmental
climate.
plan, you know who developed it? AOC plus 3. They know nothing about the climate. I mean, she's got a good line of stuff, but she knows nothing
smirking,
about
but
the climate. And they're all
he's
hopping
right.
through hoops for AOC plus 3. Look, their real plan costs $100 trillion. If we had the best year in the history of our country for 100 years, we would not even come close to a number like that. When he says buildings, they want to take buildings down because they want to make bigger windows into smaller windows. As far as they're concerned, if you had no window, it would be a lovely thing. This is the craziest plan that anybody has ever seen. And this wasn't done by smart people. This wasn't done by anybody. Frankly, I don't even know how it can be good politically. They want to spend $100 trillion. That's their real number. He's trying to say it was 6. It's $100 trillion. They want to knock down buildings and build new buildings with little, tiny, small windows. I mean, and many other things.
Okay.
And many other things.
Let me have the Vice President
It
respond,
is
and we're running out of
crazy.
time, and we have a lot
And
more
you'll
questions to
destroy
get
our
to.
country.
So let's hear from the Vice President. I have a number more questions.
I don't know where he comes from. I don't know where he comes up with these numbers.
Queens.
100.
Where the fuck do you come up with yours?
Give me a break. This plan was, endorsed by every major environmental group and every labor group. Every major environmental group and every labor group. Labor, because they know the future lies. The future lies in us being able to breathe, and they know there are good jobs in getting us there. And by the way, the fastest growing industry in America is the solar energy.
Is the stream
and
flickering on
wind.
anyone? 'Cause
He
it's happening
thinks
to me.
wind causes cancer, windmills.
Yeah, it's happening here too.
Growing jobs, and they pay good prevailing wages, $45, $50 an hour. We can grow and we can be cleaner if we go the route I'm proposing.
President Trump,
Excuse me.
please
We are
respond, and then I
energy-
have some
We are
follow-ups.
energy independent for the first time. We don't need all of these countries that we had to fight war over because we needed their energy. We are energy independent. I know more about wind than you do. It's extremely expensive, kills all the birds. It's very intermittent. It's got a lot of problems.
Oh,
and
there
they
it is.
happen to make
Biden's
the
laughing about
windows in
birds
both
dying.
Germany
Biden
and
hates
China.
birds.
And
Biden
the
hates
fumes
birds.
coming up, if you're a believer in carbon emission,
Birds
the
aren't real, by the
fumes
way.
coming up
They're
to
gonna
make
replace them with
these
drones.
massive windmills is more than anything that we're talking about with natural gas, which is very clean. One other thing.
Find me a scientist
Solar.
that said that.
I love solar, but solar doesn't quite have it yet. It's not powerful yet to really run our big, beautiful factories that we need to compete with the world. So
False.
It's all a pipe dream. But you know what we'll do? We're going to have the greatest economy in the world. But if you want to kill the economy, get rid of your oil industry. You want. And what about fracking?
All right,
Now
let
we
me
have to ask
let
him
me
about
allow
fracking.
Vice President
I
Biden to
have
respond.
never said I oppose fracking.
You said it on tape.
I did.
he did.
Show the tape. Put it on your website.
I'll put it on.
Put it on the website. The fact of the matter is
Showed
he's
it last
flat lying.
Would you rule out banning fracking?
I do rule out banning fracking because the answer, we need other industries to transition to get to ultimately a complete zero emissions by 2025. What I will do with fracking over time is make sure that we can capture the emissions from the fracking, capture the emissions from gas. We can do that, and we can do that by investing money to do it. But it's a transition to that.
I have one more question in this pod, and then we have.
He was against fracking. He said it. I will show that to you tomorrow. I am against fracking. Until he got the nomination, went to Pennsylvania, then he said, but you know what, Pennsylvania?
We don't, including coal and fracking in the Biden administration.
Fracking on federal land.
We would work it out. We would make sure it's eliminated and no more subsidies for either one of those. I guarantee you. We're going to
President Trump, people of
end fossil fuel.
to live near oil refineries and chemical plants. In Texas, there are families who worry the plants near them are making them sick. Your administration has rolled back regulations on these kinds of facilities. Why should these families give you another 4 years in office?
The families that we're talking about
Tonight I want to
employed heavily, and they're making a lot of money, more money than they've ever made. If you look at the kind of numbers that we produce for Hispanic, for Black, for Asian, it's 9 times greater, the percentage gain, than it was in 3 years, than it was under 8 years of the 2 of them, to put it nicely. 9 times more. Now, somebody lives, I have not heard the numbers or the statistics that you're saying, but they're making a tremendous amount of money economically. We saved it, and I saved it again a number of months ago when oil was crashing because of the pandemic. Okay. We saved it. We got, say what you want about relationship, we got Saudi Arabia, Mexico, and Russia to cut back, way back. We saved our oil industry, and now it's very vibrant again. And everybody has very inexpensive gasoline. Remember
Vice President Biden, your response, and then we're going to have a final question for both of you.
My response is that those people live on what they call fence lines. He doesn't understand this. They live near chemical plants that, in fact, pollute, chemical plants and oil plants and refineries that pollute. I used to live near that when I was growing up in Claymont, Delaware. And all the more oil refineries in Marcus Hook and the Delaware River than there is any place, including in Houston at the time. When my mom get in the car and when there was first frost to drive me to school, turn in the windshield wiper, there'd be oil slick in the window. That's why so many people in my state were dying and getting cancer. The fact is, those frontline communities, it doesn't matter what you're paying them, it matters how you keep them safe. What do? And you impose restrictions on the pollutions, the pollutants coming out of those fence line communities.
Okay, I have one final question.
Would he close down the oil industry?
It falls.
Would you close down the oil industry?
By the way, I would transition from the oil industry, yes.
Oh,
that's
there we go. He just
it is
he
a big
effectively
statement.
admitted he would close it down.
I would stop.
Just, however he worded it.
Because
but, yeah.
the oil industry pollutes significantly.
I see.
Here's the deal. But
that's
you
a
can't
big
do
statement.
That. Well, if you let me finish the statement, because it has to be replaced by renewable energy over time. And I'd stop giving to the oil industry, I'd stop giving them federal subsidies.
Sure.
You won't give federal subsidies to the gas, excuse me, to solar and wind.
Yeah.
Why are we giving it to oil industry?
We actually do give it to solar
But
and wind.
he's
That's
one
maybe the
final
biggest
question.
statement in terms of business.
career
That's the biggest
politician.
statement.
Okay.
Because
We have
basically
one
what he's
final
saying
question,
is he is
Mr.
going to
President.
destroy the oil industry. Will you remember that, Texas? Will you
Okay.
remember that, Pennsylvania, Oklahoma?
Vice President Biden, let me give you 10 seconds to respond, and then I
Hot
have to
kettle
get to the
black,
final
mate.
question. Vice President Biden.
He takes everything out of context, but the point is, look, we have to move toward a net zero emissions. The first place to do that by the year 2035 is in energy production, by 2050 totally.
All right. One
Is he gonna
final
get
question
China
to
to
both
do
of
it?
you. No, we're finished with
Is
this.
he
We
going
have
to
to
get
move on
China
to
to
our
do it?
final question. We have to
I'm
move
going
on
to
to our final
rejoin Paris
question.
Accord and make China abide by what they agreed to.
All
That'll
right, this
cost you
is
$1
about
trillion.
leadership, gentlemen. And this first question does go to you, President Trump. Imagine this is your inauguration day. What will you say in your address to Americans who did not vote for you? You'll each have 1 minute, starting with you, Mr.
We have to make our country totally successful as it was prior to the plague coming in from China. Now we're rebuilding it, and we're doing record numbers, 11.4 million jobs in a short period of time, et cetera. But I will tell you, go back. Before the plague came in, just before, I was getting calls from people that were not normally people that would call me. They wanted to get together. We had the best black unemployment numbers in the history of our country. Hispanic, women, Asian, people with diplomas, with no diplomas, MIT graduates, #1 in the class. Everybody had the best numbers. And you know what? The other side wanted to get together. They wanted to unify. Success is going to bring us together. We are on the road to success. But I'm cutting taxes, and he wants to raise everybody's taxes, and he wants to put new regulations on everything. He will kill it. If he gets in, you will have a depression, the likes of which you've never seen. Your 401ks will go to hell, and it'll be a very, very sad day for this country.
All right. Vice President Biden, same question to you. What will you say during your inaugural address to Americans who did not vote for you?
I will say, I'm an American president. I represent all of you, whether you voted for me or against me. And I'm going to make sure that you're represented. I'm going to give you hope. We're going to move. We're going to choose science over fiction. We're going to choose hope over fear. We're going to choose to move forward because we have enormous opportunities to make things better. We can grow this economy. We can deal with the systemic racism. And at the same time, we can make sure that our economy is being run and moved and motivated by clean energy, creating millions of new jobs. And that's the fact. That's what we're going to do. And I'm going to say, as I said at the beginning, what is on the ballot here is the character of this country: decency, honor, respect, treating people with dignity, making sure that everyone has an even chance. And I'm going to make sure you get that. You haven't been getting it the last 4 years.
All right. I want to thank you both for a very robust hour and a half, a fantastic debate. Really appreciate it. President Trump, former Vice President Joe Biden, thank you to Belmont University for hosting us tonight. And most importantly, thank you to those watching tonight. Election Day is November 3rd. Don't forget to vote. Thank you, everyone, and have a great night.
Thank you.
That was a hell of a lot better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Honestly, it really was. And Trump conducted himself much better than he did in the first debate. And I was, my prediction didn't happen. And, hell, I'll eat crow on that. And by crow, I mean I'm going to eat some pork chops that I have in the refrigerator after we end the stream.
Yeah, I'm really impressed with the moderator, actually. That's
all right, Nolan. Keep your proclivities to yourself, please. In our chat. But Jesus. No, that was actually pretty good. And I don't usually, like I said in the first one and the VP one, I usually don't assign winners to these things, but Trump knocked it out.
Yeah.
I think he really did. I mean, Biden's responses were just regular words, number salad. And constant doom. Sorry.
Yeah. That comment he made about politicians, that's like that's that cliche thing everyone says about politicians. Mm-hmm. And I was kind of blown away that we've just now seen that.
Oh, yeah.
At this level. And it's almost like, I don't know, Biden was literally doing it. Like, people have always said that about politicians. They lie. Yeah, okay, we know they make promises, but they don't tend to actually be the cliche that much. They don't go around kissing babies, and promising, big promises. Like, they don't do it explicitly and overtly. But Biden was doing that the whole way through, like a cartoon character.
Yeah.
Politician. He was literally doing it. Just, I've got another figure, and I've got this, and I'm going to do this. And none of it made any sense. None of it was grounded in anything that I know about. No. But everything Trump seemed to say was like, I can understand it. I can relate to something that I know about. And it was a one-sided debate.
It kind of was. And
Tuttle, out of the park.
And Tuttle, he doesn't kiss babies, he sniffs them. And what's that phrase, Nolan? And what's that phrase, Nolan? The emperor protects? I've been binging on 40K lore from Arch for the last few days. A buddy of mine recommended it to me, so. But no, Jesus. Yeah, it was. You're right. It was just the exact same. It was the cookie cutter off the assembly line politispeak. It was just the same old, like, you can tell it's the kind of thing that he's been rehearsing and doing for 47 years. There was no substance to it. It was just, here is, you know, here are numbers. I hope you'll eat them up. But Trump just, there were some real slugs there, that just real slugging punches straight at him. And there were some things that Biden said, of course, that weren't entirely, weren't complete nonsense. There's some things that I agreed with. For example, near the end there, he said if he's gonna cut oil subsidies, and I'm like, well, sure, because I'm against subsidizing industries, but I know he's not gonna fucking do it, and he wouldn't, and more importantly, he wouldn't be doing it as a means to reduce government spending. I think I lost you there for a minute. What happened?
I have no idea.
Oh, did you hear it? I don't know how long I lost you, but I'll just rehash real quick. He talked about cutting the oil industry subsidies, and I'm like, yeah, sure. Government shouldn't be subsidizing industry, but he's not going to fucking do it to cut spending. He's not going to be doing it for free market reasons, because he's going to take that fucking. He's not going to do it at all, but if he did, he would just take that fucking money, pour it around, and start pumping even more subsidies into more expensive and more environmentally or equally environmentally hazardous industries. It's just a complete fucking waste.
Hey, he's pushing that pipe dream, like the zero emissions.
It's not gonna.
It'll never happen.
Just the same as how we cannot ever reach a scarceless society. We're never going to reach a zero emission society. Never going to fucking happen. That doesn't, of course, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't try to reduce our emissions. Sure. But this is the kind of, you can't force this crap the way that these politicians have their heads in the cloud. And they know it's never going to happen the way that they say it's going to happen. They know it. It's just not even cleverly. It's just a disguised power grab.
It's probably the most egregious lie that they're stating. It is. I mean, if you go into he's saying, I'm going to reform justice. Like, yeah, you probably change it. Even if you're not trying, there'll be something will happen. But when they go, no, zero emissions. No, that's it. None. And that, like, if we're building these cars, where do we get the plastic from? Where do we get the fucking batteries from?
Yeah.
It's,
yeah.
Well, I think,
what was it? Speaking of the batteries, what was it last night? We were, it might not have been with you. It might have been with some of my friends. I come across a clip. So for those who don't know, Elon Musk announced he's getting into the lithium mining industry by using an efficient, what he says to be an efficient and low waste method using sodium chloride, table salt, for extracting lithium from ore. And he did this in front of the two biggest lithium mining companies in the United States. If I can absolutely be certain, you get someone like Biden in the office, in months, you're gonna see something out, like a memo out from the Department of Interior. The United States Department of Interior announces new lithium mining regulations over environmental concerns of sodium chloride-based techniques. Bam. He will. So even all this fucking talk about maximizing production for green energy and stuff like that, it will still work within the same Washington system. Because you can bet your ass right now, those two companies are lobbying like crazy to muscle Musk out of the industry. That's exactly the sort of slimeball Biden is, and it's exactly the sort of way it will be fucking done.
Yeah. Did he actually say super predators back in '94? That was one thing I found odd about what
I don't know if it was him. I don't know if he said it, but I know the bitch said it.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to check that one. I think he did, because that was the buzzword that was going around with that.
On a side note, did you notice that Biden was like doing this like silly grin a lot of the time when he was in trouble?
It's the same.
I kept thinking,
same thing that Kamala did.
Yeah, exactly. I just like, are you guys? Have you picked that up from her now? Is that, you know?
I did share Captain Rhodes. I did share a video earlier in chat with that the president had shared at one of his rallies about it was a direct clip of Biden saying that we're gonna get rid of the fracking industry. It's a little further up in the chat. You can check it. I'll also post it to our Discord if I didn't already. So, sorry, I was reading the chat when you were talking, Radio Brain. What we were talking about Kamala's grin, and I lost what you were saying.
Yeah, it's like she's. He didn't do that in the first debate.
Nope.
Maybe a little, but he was doing it all the time, and that kind of freaks me out a bit. Like they, you know, there must have been both of them. Both candidates are going to be doing like prep for this, right? They'll have someone helping them out, coaching them, thinking it through, focusing on how they're going to approach it and all this, right? So, you know, Trump was probably over in his camp getting ready with, you know, the specific things he was going to target. He clearly was going in with toning down his bluster. But on the Biden side, I can imagine, you know, they're having a meeting and someone said, okay, Biden, here's what you need to do. You know what Kamala did? Do that. And it just seems ridiculous that they would stage that's their technique. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Like it's just, what a weird thing to use.
Yeah. Oh, apparently the Trump's Twitter account has already tweeted out the fucking video of so I'm going to share that.
Trump just like walked straight off stage.
Or one of his staffers did, but I'll share that here. And yeah, I'll post it's I found it in Parthenon, the tweet. I'll chuck it. Well, the reason Nolan, the reason why we have our own Discord is because it's where we compile our sources and stuff like that. It's not necessarily a place for talk and conversation. It's where we like post our stuff so that like we can keep direct track of it, and anyone else can come on in. And if we're cutting out shit, oh god, no, I think with the whole besmirking thing, it's just it's a common reactionary defense. It's just I don't really know what else to say, or I think this is ridiculous, and I'm trying to come up with something to say. You know, something everybody does to some extent.
Yeah, but he was doing it. He looked like a teenager being told off at times in that, like trying to smirk his way out of getting into trouble. And it seriously, Trump came across like he was giving him a dressing down at many points.
Yeah. Well, I think the next few days or so, I might rewatch this thing, take some notes, because there's some things I want to go into, some things I want to look into. Like I want to look into, even though I don't really think it's all that relevant, I still want to look into it just for fact checking. I want to look into the president's comments back in the 90s concerning crime and stuff like that, because I know it came up a few years ago, and he was, you know, he did say some things, and he was very, very hard on that sort of stuff. And it's something that's used to throw against the wall at him as he's a racist, he's a racist, he's racist. And I don't think that's the case. I think it's more that he was just really fucking hard on, he was just very, very hard on crime back then. And the reality of it is one can change their positions over time, of course. And Biden could have changed his positions over time. But Biden's 8 years as VP with the hope and change president, nothing came out to indicate a change in positions on crime. No, there won't be another debate, because the second debate was canceled. And at some point, Radio Brain, we might want to go maybe sit down and do a stream where we watch each of the two town halls. I didn't actually watch either of them. I was too knackered that night. And then we can maybe do a cover on those if potentially something to think about.
Yeah, possible.
So no, the
I
two
don't
individual
know.
town halls they did were that. And my understanding is from the one Trump did is the moderator there was just purely combative with him and I did see at least like his first 2 or 3 questions, and he did not answer them. They were that was terrible. I don't know anything about the Biden one, so no, yeah. Other than the fact, if I recall correctly, Biden gave a 5-minute nothing answer to a black guy who asked him race related stuff, and still comes out and says, "I'm going to vote for him." It's like, oh god damn it, dude! The guy just snubbed you to your face. So.
Yeah.
Nope,
So what do you reckon the highlight is in this debate for you?
See, that's the tough one. I think there's going to be for me. Let's see. I really liked how he just went right in for the throat with the mayor of former mayor of Moscow's widow and his son. I was hoping that he would go straight in on the Hunter Biden shit, and that was gold. For what I think will probably be one of the top clips that the media is going to run with will be the dark winter. Trump's going to bring us a dark winter. Yes! No, thank you, Rhodes. The Abraham Lincoln thing is... no, that was my favorite. That was my single favorite thing tonight.
Yeah, that was... I couldn't believe he said Abraham Lincoln over here.
That is not... that is not a stutter. That is not a fucking stutter.
No. I think it was like he was trying to make fun of him, but it totally backfires, because it's almost like you say, yeah, this guy's as good as... this guy is as good as Abraham Lincoln. It's like a totally bad...
And Trump really
totally backfiring swipe.
Oh, it was, and there were so many other ways he could have gone at it. Instead, because Trump's saying, I've been the best president for black people since Abraham Lincoln, I don't think that's remotely true. As much as I don't like pretty much the entirety of the LBJ administration, he did get the 1964 Civil Rights Act through, which was a huge fucking thing. Eisenhower was pretty damn good in that regard, because Eisenhower, even though arguably unconstitutionally, enforced the Supreme Court's desegregation of the schools. Truman desegregated the military and the federal government. Those are all pretty fucking big things. Let's see, when was the 14th Amendment passed? I think that was passed after Lincoln had passed away, so that would have been passed under either Johnson or Grant. I don't think it's enough to completely confirm it, because while it's not a stutter, it could still be something that if you're not paying attention enough, you could easily walk away from. But to say it, I do agree there's something. I don't think there's something's quite all right there with him. There were a few times there where he started to go a little off the ball. The one thing I can say, though, I do have at least confirmation that he doesn't have an earpiece in. Because if he had an earpiece in, he wouldn't have been such a fucking flabbergasting disaster.
Yeah. Another thing that was very obvious to me in terms of how he acted was whenever he was on the ropes, he would start stumbling on his words.
Yeah.
In the same way every time. He'd start repeating a word or, fluffing it and then get into his answer.
Some of that
was very noticeable.
Some of that is technique to dealing with a stutter. Like I have a stutter, you can't tell. And some of it's a good way of also trying to collect your thoughts. Now, in his case, somebody as experienced in politics as him, who's likely undergone like hours of prep every day for the last 2 weeks for this, should not be stumbling around with his thoughts as much. Trump doesn't seem to have that problem, though Trump's always been very lightning quick on his thoughts. And some of that is in part because Trump historically has a wonderful case of diarrhea of the mouth, but he's gotten a lot better at controlling it over the last couple of years. But no, I think that Biden's... See, like me, when I fall back all the time and stutter and recollect my thoughts, it's because I'm not as experienced as a public speaker as someone like Biden is. I'm not terrible.
Yeah, I'm more focused on the fact what was preceding it. And I noticed that it was whenever Trump was hitting him with something that, you know, he's got, there's no real answer for, other than to lie or tell the truth. And if he told the truth, then he'd lose the debate outright. But that's what I really noticed. It was whenever he was given a really difficult, something difficult to talk about, and he's just not cut out for it. It's
not anymore, anyway. And to be honest, I don't think Biden has ever been cut out to be president. He's only had one contested election in his entire life. That was like 1972. And I'm sitting there going, Jesus, 1972. I think you're the only friend of mine who might have been around at that time.
Oh no! It's before I was born.
Well, how about that? And he's he'd run for the candidacy 3 times before this and lost every time. It's like I've said before. Biden is just a guy who his entire job, his entire existence has been to get elected and warm a seat. That's it. That is the only
professional, useless person.
Exactly the way that I've described it. He is and I borrowed that from Ben Shapiro, a professional, useless person. And no, Rhodes, you are right. You can go back and listen to Biden a few years back, and he has completely changed. Absolutely. Some of his talks when he was just gaffing all over the fucking place on behalf of Obama. He was far more coherent. He wouldn't double back to collect his thoughts all that often. His stutter was definitely under control. Biden does indeed have a stutter, and when he said for years and years and years defending, saying I had a stutter when I was younger, I've gotten better at it. It's like, well, yeah, it's something that you work on, something you get better at. What's that movie from a few years ago about King George VI who had a horrendous stutter? That was a really good movie.
Yeah.
The King's Speech. That was a really good movie. And, you know, you can work on it. You can improve it. You can get better at it. But no, his mind is just I don't think his mind is just there as much. Now, whatever he's on, because I do think that remember one of our earliest videos, we went over the whole 4chan leak. I do think that whatever he's on is helping him. Because he is definitely better than when he was before the 4chan leaker said that they'd put him on medication.
Yeah. I suspect that they've been working it out as they go. Did you see his first town hall?
When was that?
He I don't know, a month ago now. No, he looked, his eyes were bulging out of his head while he was getting asked questions from
I think he's on something a little. I think he's on something more than just.
And I reckon in the first debate they're probably given it an upper and a downer to stabilize it, and now they've got it. They're clearly doing something.
I think if anything, he's on the. I think he's on. I do believe more now than before that he's on Alzheimer's medication, and now I also believe that he's been put on something like my bet is on speed to keep him to get for But it's a carefully, and I think you're right. Maybe a downer is a depressant to help keep it from getting too out of control. And the reason why I think that is because all of these fucking career politicians are druggies, all of them. Whether or addicts of some kind. Whether it's they're addicted to hookers and blow, or they're addicted to speed, or whether they're addicted to alcohol. They're all addicted to something. Or most of them are.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely.
There was a good.
I'm absolutely convinced, by the way, that Nancy Pelosi is a functioning alcoholic.
She fucking looks like one. She actually, there was a documentary series years ago called Altered Statesman that went through. There was 6 parts to it. It was 6 different politicians basically looking into how they were affected by drugs.
Oh, yeah.
JFK, Reagan, Winston Churchill, Anthony Eden.
Eden. Oh God,
and
Eden was a mess. But yeah.
Yeah, and and then I've also heard that apparently Nixon was a cokehead, and
not surprised.
Apparently the Secret Service were running around the White House grounds because he was a paranoid freak out one night.
Well, it would explain his increasing paranoia as the president in a lot of ways.
Yeah. What do you reckon Trump's on?
Adderall. Speed.
Yeah.
Basically. If he's on anything, I'd wager he's on something like that. But to be honest, considering how leaky his administration even still today is, it's possible he might not be on something these days because they would have a fucking field day. I mean, the administration, so the House would impeach him on that, and they would, and if it was an illicit drug abuse, they would actually have some fucking grounds there. But
yeah, they
so either he's got it locked up very, very tightly, as in the number of people who know are in single digits, or he's not on anything.
Well, actually, his addiction might be non-drug related. We know, Twitter might be his addiction. That's, it makes sense.
Yeah.
We all know about that.
See, the reason why I do think that, well, I believe Trump when he says he doesn't drink, and all reports of people who've been around him say he doesn't drink at all. I do think that he very likely may have a history with some drugs, because, he was an 80s Wall Street guy, 70s and 80s Wall Street guy. Those guys are addicted to winning. Those guys, that was not only was that the culture, that was the way you functioned in a lot of cases, because it goes into the psychology of the type of person that becomes a fantastically wealthy like that. They're the kind of people that work like 18 hours a fucking day, and the body physically just can't do it. You've got to augment and offset the body's needs. Uppers will do that. Well, it is 8 o'clock here. I am absolutely starving. I'm thinking we might call it fairly soon.
Yeah, I guess, I don't know, any last words on it?
For once, I'm going to actually call a winner here, and I'm giving it to Trump.
Yeah, me too. I think it was absolutely crystal clear. I felt like I was watching the landslide happening before my eyes earlier on, watching the way he was able to compose himself, get a few zingers in, push things. He was very, very, very selective about when he interrupted. And that whole muting thing wasn't so bad.
No, it wasn't. No, that's actually glad you brought that up. I actually saw Biden get muted more than Trump. I was surprised by that. The moderator conducted herself very, very well. I was expecting, because she is a rabid, absolutely rabid, loathes Trump. I am absolutely surprised that she wasn't combative or trying to start a war with the president on the fucking stage.
Well, maybe she's just saying that to keep her job, and come election day, she might be part of that increase in black voters.
She's not black.
Oh, sorry, people
of
color.
Darker. She looked darker, but she's not. As far as I'm aware, she's not.
Isn't she?
Okay. Yeah, I've seen her on. I've seen her on TV. She's on one of the morning shows. So.
Okay. Maybe it's just my screen. Oh well, there was accidentally racist.
It was the lighting and shit. But no, yeah. I was really, really surprised. Like I said, I was absolutely expecting to watch Kristen Welker be horrible.
Yeah,
It's great to be wrong.
So yeah, pleasantly surprised.
She has the hots for Trump. I mean, he is the God Emperor. Who doesn't? Oh, there it is. Iran is Trump simping. All right. Thank you for joining us, everyone. I guess we'll try to do something for election night, because that'll be a fuck ton of... that'll either be... Okay, no matter what, that's going to be great. I think it's going to be fun no matter what. Win or lose, I'll be disappointed if the president loses, for sure. But aside from a mock of it, I'm not going to have a chunk meltdown. Chunk,
dude,
sad,
there's going to be some
lose.
major meltdowns. There's
Chunk,
going to be
sad,
some major
Clinton
meltdowns if Trump wins. It's going to be like 2016 times a million. It is. It's going to be meme gold pouring out of the internet.
It's gonna be better than 2016. It's gonna be so much better than 2016. And then we're gonna have to deal with the torching what's left of our cities. Though to be fair, there's not much left that these fuckers haven't burned. So, and there's a little part of me that goes, well, Bastiat is absolutely right. Destroying shit doesn't create growth. There's a little part of me that goes, burning down the cities just means we can build new ones, better ones.
Yeah, environmentally friendly ones. Hey, maybe that's the Democrats' plan.
That already was their fucking plan. Destroy the whole fucking country. Their whole plan is step 1, destroy the whole fucking country. Step 2, question. Step 3, 0 emissions. Yeah, what's step 2 there, buddy?
Hey, you can't have emissions if you don't have a civilization.
That's true. Anyway, though, thanks for joining us, everybody. We are the Prometheans, and we'll be back sometime this week. We're gonna try to do something this coming next week. Maybe discuss some more about the emails and stuff, because I'm sure there'll be even more out by then. And anyway, have a good night, everyone.
Thanks for listening.
Yep.